This is Ocean Robbins, and I am so excited that in just a few minutes we're going to begin day 3 of the 2019 Food Revolution Summit. We'll be starting with Dr. Joel Kahn with critical insights about your heart, your health, and your life. And I want to welcome you to day 3 here, and I want to thank you so much for joining in. And I want to congratulate you. I hope that in some way this summit is able to support you and to empower you. As each speaker so far has revealed so clearly, the status quo is unacceptable. It is a fast track to obesity, cancer, diabetes, Alzheimer's, and feeling like crap along the way. But there are incredible breakthroughs taking place as we come to understand what's possible when we truly make food into the foundation of health. If you've just joined us, we will be starting today's broadcasts in about 3.5 minutes. Yesterday, we heard some incredibly powerful presentations from Drs. Erica and Justin Sonnenberg, Dr. Neil Barnard, and Dr. Joel Fuhrman. And we've received thousands of enthusiastic emails and comments. Barbara Bennett said, "So much appreciation to Food Revolution founders and teachers. At the age of 77, I intend to live a plant-based life, and thinking about this intention brings peace and joy." Again, thank you so much. We heard from Susie Nubar, who said, "It's never too late. I'm proof of that. I've had bypass surgery, peripheral arterial disease, my arteries and my legs blocked up. I almost lost my right leg, a stroke, fibro, and the list goes on and on. If you saw me now, you'd never know any of that stuff. My health is getting much better after attending the Food Revolution Network University, LOL. I'm looking and feeling so much better. Thank you for this information." Susie, thank you for sharing. I am so happy to hear about these results and that you have been able to apply what you have learned through Food Revolution Network and put it into action. That is so heartwarming. That's why we do this, and we hear these stories so often. And everybody listening right now, this is not a miracle. This is fairly predictable. Transformation happens when we make the right choices. So often. We heard from Brooke McGowan, who said, "I've been looking forward to the summit since my first one last year. I was diagnosed with asthma, Crohn's disease, and an ulcer in my 20s when I was overweight, eating poorly, and exercising sporadically. When I changed to a mostly plant-based diet at 31, my asthma disappeared, and I rarely experience digestive issues or signs of Crohn's. I feel so much better. While cookies and cake are still tempting, I love having this community for support and social connection. Thank you, Ocean and John Robbins, and all the speakers for your work and for this summit." Yes, Brooke, thank you so much. You know, as I've been reading through the comments that have been posted so far in this summit, I've been deeply moved. We're building a community right here and right now, and we're supporting each other in taking back our food, our lives, and our health. And as we go through this day, I want to invite you to regularly post and refresh the comments on the broadcast page and share your thoughts, your reactions, your feelings, and especially any insights that you hear that you want to capture or share with others. If you just joined in, this is Ocean Robbins, and today's topic is heart, healing your heart from the inside out. In just a few moments, you will hear us on the line with Dr. Joel Kahn. At the top of the next hour, 9 a.m. Pacific Time, noon Eastern, 4 p.m. GMT, you'll hear us on with Dr. Kim Williams. And an hour after that, with Dr. Sarai Stancic. As always, each interview will be expertly guided by my dad and colleague, John Robbins. Will last about 50 minutes and will be followed by questions, answers, reflections, and take-it-home insights. Now let me ask you, have you or anyone you love ever faced or feared heart disease, high blood pressure, or stroke? If so, you're not alone. According to the American Heart Association, 80% of all seniors in the U.S. have high blood pressure or are on high blood pressure medication. Heart disease is the leading cause of death on this planet, taking 14 million lives last year. But as you're going to learn today, most of the heart disease in this world can be prevented with simple changes to diet and lifestyle. Today, you're going to find out how. And we will begin now with cardiologist Dr. Joel Kahn. welcome to the Food Revolution Summit, where we explore how you can heal your body and your world with food. This is Ocean Robbins, and I am joined by my dad and colleague, John Robbins, in welcoming our guest, Dr. Joel Kahn. As one of the world's top cardiologists, Dr. Joel Kahn has treated thousands of patients. And if he had his way, he'd prevent so many heart attacks that he'd never need to treat another patient again. In addition to his practice saving lives as a cardiologist, Dr. Kahn lectures around the world, inspiring health through excellent nutrition. He's also founder of Green Space Cafe, Metro Detroit's first plant-based restaurant and bar, and he's the author of several best-selling books, including The Whole Heart Solution and The Plant-Based Solution. So now, Joel, my dad and I are so happy to have this time with you and so grateful for your wisdom and your brilliance. And now for the interview, I'm going to hand it over to my dad, John Robbins.
Well, thank you, Ocean. And thank you, Joel, for being with us once again.
Well, as listeners might remember from last year, you had such an influence on my career and the Diet for a New America. So you call, I answer, and I'm still very, very grateful for that and many other things that you do.
Well, thank you for that. And we are so delighted to have you. I'm quite excited to have this conversation with you. How are you feeling as we begin to launch?
Energetic, optimistic, and very full of plants.
Very full of plants. Well, speaking of plants, there's recent research being published about inflammation, chronic inflammation. Why does it matter? Why do plant-strong diets do so well when it comes to inflammatory conditions?
Number one, inflammation. The middle word is flame, fire, irritation, something not right that can be measured in the blood by blood tests, the most famous of which is called the high sensitivity C-reactive protein that any doctor can order on any patient. And I encourage listeners to ask their doctor to order their high sensitivity C-reactive protein. And if it's elevated, there's a fire going on that might impact on many chronic diseases, make arteries worse, might affect brain, might promote obesity, might affect diabetes and blood sugar control. And sometimes it's a cycle because the very same obesity and the same blood sugar control cause inflammation. So it goes round and round. And you want to lead a life of which includes a diet that's anti-inflammatory. And we've learned that brightly colored whole fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and legumes containing very rich amounts of antioxidants, very rich amount of fiber, minerals, and these special chemicals called phytonutrients, things found only in broccoli and only in cauliflower and only in radishes as examples, are very anti-inflammatory. You take 100 patients with the number one killer, coronary artery disease, clogged arteries. For 8 weeks, you ask them to eat only plants, or for 8 weeks, you ask them to eat the American Heart Association diet, which already is better than the average American diet, but it will allow meats and dairy and eggs to some extent. And in this study, very hard to do, but completed successfully and now published in a major medical journal, we found that the C-reactive protein was significantly lower. That means inflammation was significantly less, which is a good thing. Not everything less is a good thing, but less inflammation is a good thing. And that was with the plant diet, the diet that excluded all meat, dairy, and eggs. And for this to be done at a major university, which it was, New York University in Manhattan, by some leading scientists, and get the attention it got when it was first presented and now fully published, this is a big deal. And if anybody wants to read more, you'll see inflammation connected to 8 or 10 of the most serious medical conditions that we deal with that cost lives and cost dollars. It's exciting to know that we have just one more peg on the stool to support this plant-based whole food diet as a revolution for our health.
We do indeed. And chronic inflammation does contribute to many, many of the chronic diseases that plague our people today, and particularly as they get older. And for people today who are eating this standard American diet or a variation of it, the last 10 or 20 years of their lives are often sad ones. There's progressive deterioration. There's an increasing need for medications and medical procedures and facilities to provide services that can no longer be performed independently. Half of those aged 85 in our society today have Alzheimer's or some other form of dementia. What I want to ask you, Joel, is how solid and how convincing is the scientific evidence that people who eat a whole foods, plant strong diet and who do other healthy lifestyle things like exercising regularly, not smoking, and having strong social connections, how strong is the evidence that they can realistically look forward not only to living longer, but also to a vastly more positive experience of their later years?
Yeah, it's profound, and we have the data, and it doesn't always have to be 100% adherence to a plant diet, something that I've done for decades and decades, and I believe you've chosen to do. But for example, there's two major studies from Europe, 2014 range, that looked at 40,000 people that said, I don't have heart disease, but they did in-depth analyses. Do you smoke? How many minutes a day do you walk? What do you eat? How many hours do you sleep and such? And at the end of the day, if you can build yourself a lifestyle that is not smoking, is 30 minutes a day of walking or more, that involves eating more than 5 servings of fruits and vegetables a day, so you're plant strong, even if you choose not to be 100% plant-based, and you get adequate sleep, you can actually drop your heart attack rate by 85% over the 20 years of follow-up. I mean, there is no prescription drug that will drop your risk of heart attack and heart disease by 85%. So this works better the younger you adopt it, so that your arteries are exposed to a better milieu and a better lifestyle through a longer period of time. But there's really no age at which you wouldn't want to adopt this kind of near bulletproof lifestyle to protect yourself, because there's nothing fun about heart disease. Sometimes it is the last breath you take, and sometimes it damages the heart so you don't have the energy to enjoy life. And at a minimum, you've probably had procedures and medications and doctor visits and testing you could avoid. So let's get on the bandwagon and at least eat plant strong.
I've always found it a source of awe that each of us has in our bodies 50,000 miles of arteries and 50,000 miles of veins. This is, to me, an amazing reality. That is a very, very long distance of our arterial system. And I want to talk with you about a part of the human body that our listeners might not be familiar with, the endothelium. Now, the endothelium lines all of the 100,000 miles of veins and arteries in our bodies. It is extremely thin, literally only a single cell layer thin, yet it weighs as much as our livers, which is saying a lot because the liver is the largest and heaviest organ in the human body. You've said that the endothelium is the key to living a long and healthy life. Joel, can you explain why you say that?
Right. And just one more fun fact, it's estimated if you took this wallpaper-like single cell lining inside all of those arteries, those 50,000 miles, which you so correctly said, it would cover 6 or 7 tennis courts. So think about this amazing, rescue net that we have. But, we don't live these mindful lives where we're thinking, thank you for our endothelium. So basically a wallpaper for arteries to protect the artery and to let the artery function well. So in 1998, a little over 20 years ago, the Nobel Prize in Medicine was awarded to 3 researchers that showed the endothelium wasn't just a inert wallpaper. It made many, many chemicals that participate in health, normal blood pressure, normal blood flow, healthy lung, brain, gut function by having healthy arteries. And the key was making a lot of nitric oxide. And NO, nitric oxide, not laughing gas, but nitric oxide. And we can increase that. Again, how? By a plant-based diet. We know the mechanism of eating green leafy vegetables, particularly like arugula, for example, rich in dietary nitrates. We know the role of eating beets and watermelon and pine nuts. And all these are plant-based miracles that will ramp up our production of nitric oxide. So we have more normal blood pressure, healthier arteries, freedom from stroke and heart attack. But when you smoke, when you eat animal fat-rich foods, they've all been demonstrated to knock the socks out of that wallpaper protection. So love your nitric oxide. It also has a very important role in supporting healthy sexual function. And you won't need a blue pill if you eat enough blueberries.
Well, there is a powerful new documentary film that you just reminded me of. It's called Game Changers, and it's produced by the filmmaker James Cameron, who made two of the highest grossing films ever, Titanic and Avatar. And there's a scene in the Game Changers movie that was so impactful that when they filmed it, most of the film crew changed to a plant-based diet after shooting it because of what they saw. A prominent urologist, Dr. Aaron Spitz, gave 3 elite athletes meat-based dinners. One got organic chicken, one got grass-fed beef, and the other got organic pork. And he then measured how many erections they had and how hard those were while they slept that night. Then the next evening, he gave them plant-based dinners and repeated the same studies. What he found was that these men had 300 to 500% more frequent erections during the night after the plant-based meal than after the meat-based meal. And these erections, of which they had 3 to 5 times more of, lasted on average 4 times longer, averaging 45 minutes compared to 11 minutes for the same men after eating the meat dinner. And they were harder and had a wider circumference. So Joel, as a cardiologist and as the co-author of a book titled Vegan Sex, does this surprise you?
Triple X here with John and Ocean Robin. But you nailed it on the head, if I can use maybe a little pun there, because that does identify, you remove those food items and other lifestyle items like smoking that damage your endothelium, your nitric oxide producing capacity. You ramp up and add those that enhance it, which is eating a whole food, plant-based, brightly colored diet. Particularly, again, green leafy vegetables, beets, watermelon are superstars. And, imagine the impact of this. If this were a drug that did that, imagine what they'd be selling it for and the exotic name and advertising campaign. But it's the food. It's really our decision once we have the knowledge to just make some changes and enjoy the benefits. I'll give you a corollary. There's clear-cut scientific data that as you age, the more you maintain sexual activity and ability, the longer you live. It's a wonderful study from Wales. So we don't talk about that necessarily all the time, but maintaining the ability, maintaining the interest, and doing it through healthy foods that also help the environment. I mean, it's just a crazy win-win in every regard.
And does the same diet that in Game Changers we saw the consequences for the men, does the same thing hold for women? In other words, does a diet rich in plants and whole foods support women's sexual function?
Well, we have every reason to believe so. We have fewer scientific studies. I mean, we believe it's happening in men because of better arteries. That's absolutely true of women. We believe it's happening in men because of more normal blood pressure. Again, absolutely believe that happens in women. We know that it enhances nitric oxide. Absolutely know that happens in women. It's frankly just a little easier to put a scanner on a guy's personal parts and do a study like Dr. Spitz did than it is to do the equivalent in the female world. But we have enough data to say, yes, indeed, your libido and sexual interest may go up when you eliminate some of these processed foods rich in animal fats and animal protein, and your ability to perform is likely to go up to female or male. So just go for it.
So we're talking about the endothelium's ability to produce nitric oxide, among other aspects to this. There was a cardiologist at the University of Maryland who recruited volunteers to have 2 meals on separate days while a device was on their arm that monitored their endothelial function. And his study has become somewhat famously known as the Egg McMuffin study. Can you tell us what happened and why this is important for our listeners to understand?
Yes, this is actually, I think every time I lecture to the public, I pull out the slide of that study because it so quickly identifies whether I'm talking to children or adults or medical students or the older public that, fast food, processed food on the highway, and unfortunately, still in some of our hospital lobbies, even one that I'm on staff at and practice at with a giant Wendy's in the lobby of a university hospital. This stuff is pure toxin. So Dr. Robert Vogel did exactly what you said. A healthy volunteer got a low-fat meal. There was no change, no deterioration, and no damage to their endothelium measured for 7 hours. But within less than an hour of eating exactly what you said, a McDonald's egg McMuffin, they went out and got the yellow bag, brought it into the research lab at the university. There was a detectable drop. In fact, it peaked at 4 hours, a serious drop in the ability of these arteries to make nitric oxide, to respond in a healthy manner and dilate and blood flow. Ultimately, 7 hours later, the arteries returned to normal, like some kind of food bomb had gone off in their vicinity. But the reality is that's now lunchtime, and many people will have a bucket of fried chicken that's going to do the same thing for 7 hours, and then people are going to pick up maybe some meat and cheese burritos for dinner. So there's no doubt there's people who are spending more than half the day, basically just under attack from food quality that's so poor and directly damages endothelium. And how many days, day after day, month after month, can that happen until plaque starts to form, arteries become calcified? It's no longer a 7-hour reversible bomb. It becomes a permanent bomb, and that's called cardiovascular disease, erectile dysfunction, stroke, heart attack, worsening kidney function, all these problems that are so sensitive to making better food choices.
They are sensitive, and a lot of people want to make better food choices, and they're confused. And there is a best-selling book out with the subtitle, Why Butter, Meat, and Cheese Belong in a Healthy Diet. Joel, what does the science say? Do butter, meat, and cheese belong in a healthy diet?
Yeah, I mean, I'm quite familiar with that subtitle of that book, and we all wish it never was written and never was published. It's not written by a scientist. It's not written by a PhD. It's not written by an MD. Not written by a person who's ever taken care of a single patient nor done a cardiac procedure. And it's, categorically wrong. And we've had 50 or 60 years of cumulative data that foods from animal sources high in what we call saturated fat, generally the butters, the cheeses, the meats, the egg yolks, that they do relate to higher blood cholesterol levels and higher chance of getting that heart attack, that stroke, that erectile dysfunction, that early death. In 2010 and 2014, industry-funded studies were reported, and there's only two, that question whether that really was a relationship. 50, 60 years of research involving hundreds, if not thousands of studies. There were two industry-funded studies, one with a dairy backing and one with other backing. And they were just enough to get the headlines. And there's no doubt, without being a controversy and conspiracy kind of person, that it's better for a magazine to have a headline that says butter is back when the major advertisers are restaurants and foods and chains that are promoting those kind of foods, because very rarely are you going to see a broccoli sprout or an edamame bean ad in a magazine like Newsweek or Time. So, it was a win-win-win for the producers of these foods, for the retailers of these foods, for the magazines and headlines that advertise them. But they were so distorted, because even these two scientific articles said clearly, we have no data to suggest you should increase the amount of animal foods rich in saturated fat. We're just questioning whether this many decades old relationship could be confirmed. And both studies were so bad, they were resoundingly criticized right away by very prominent people at Harvard and Northwestern and the rest. But they made the difference. It's the tobacco company's attitude that if there's doubt, we can sell our product. And they were very effective at reintroducing doubt in the American mind, enough that this female author wrote that subtitle in that book, what just keeps circling the planet and leading people to be confused and make very poor choices.
Well, there are people trying to correct these misconceptions, but what is controversial is often what gets the clicks, the headlines, and the attention. One of the reasons we do these summits is to provide solid and reliable information from legitimate experts, so people can make their food choices guided by the wisdom and knowledge that has accumulated through science. And yet there are always these fad diets that become popular for a time. We are today witnessing a lot of popularity of keto diets. And ketogenic diets do have a role in some seizure disorders with children, but they're very hard to stay on for those kids. And generally, people find them very difficult to stay on, but they're very popular today. You've said that you cannot, in good conscience, recommend a ketogenic diet to hardly anyone. Why not?
I've referred to this in some of my writings and lectures as the skeleton in the ketogenic diet. And you're absolutely right. We went from a medical therapy diet, very low in carbohydrate based foods, very high in fat based foods for children with epilepsy, and a medical literature that pointed out many problems and lack of staying power to stay on the diet. It's not very tasty, it's not very palatable. But we went from a medical diet with medical literature to suddenly seeing Hollywood stars and athletes promoting it, and it caught fire. And it's repackaged Dr. Atkins diet, it's repackaged Sugar Buster diet, it's repackaged South Beach diet. It's just the buzz of the day that it's called the keto diet, and you may lose some weight quick. But at what risk and at what harm? So what is just offensive to me is that there are actually 10 studies going from 2010 to the present date that involve more than 1 million subjects. And when I say studies, these are actually published studies in the medical literature that any physician, or actually any member of the public, can access by reviewing the National Library of Medicine, that each and every one says that the long-term use of these diets increases your risk of dying prematurely. We're all going to die. But if it's a 20-year study and more people die in the low-carb ketogenic diet group, that's really a concern. And if it's one study, okay, two studies, okay, but 10 studies with more than 1 million people together say it. We have to pay attention and ask the question, is it ethical? Is it reasonable? If you have a child having seizures and you want to go down that path, it makes some sense to not look 20, 30 years down the road, but to look for remedying that acute and very serious problem. But when people are doing this to get a better six pack and be like their buddies, and I hear so many people, I've been ketogenic for 4 years, 3 years, 5 years. It's very concerning because cancer grows slowly, heart disease grows slowly. They're not going to see within a year, 2, 3, or 4 years necessarily, nor will any study see it in the short term. The studies I'm mentioning typically had 15 to 30-year follow-up, and that's when you see the blip. So, when anybody talks about the keto diet for other than a prescribed medical situation, it has to have an asterisk that says, warning, there should be concern about increased mortality. And I mean, people would flee from that if they really knew, but it's laughed at, although there's no counter data. There is no counter data about the safety of these diets. There's only concerning data. And these were not plant-based doctors who wrote these papers. The Harvard School of Public Health and researchers in Sweden, researchers in Greece and all over the world. They're just scientists that are looking for truth.
Yes, they are. And we have many scientific bodies worldwide providing us with guidance and help. In 2015, the International Agency for Research on Cancer, which is an independent agency of the World Health Organization, declared that processed meat is carcinogenic to humans, meaning that it causes cancer. And yet, even today, if you walk into a hospital cafeteria, you'll see hot dogs and bacon and pepperoni pizza and other processed meats, the very meats that have been officially deemed to cause cancer. Now, hospitals are seen by most people as places we go to for healing. So serving processed meats there could make it seem to patients that these foods are healthy and, in fact, bear the hospital's stamp of approval. Joel, I know you have strong feelings about this, and I want to hear what they are when you see hospitals serving foods that are known to cause cancer.
Yeah, I don't know how anybody can look, and thank you for that question, at this situation. And if you really just pause, not be offended. Now, we're making some headroad. There were more McDonald's in hospital lobbies than there are now. But literally in my city of Detroit, at a major university hospital, there's a Wendy's, the first thing you see. And if that's not good, you got the Chick-fil-A just to the side. And in an even bigger hospital that I've been on staff at for almost 30 years, they wanted to put something to compete. So now they're putting in a Wahlburger so you can have a triple beef, bacon, cheese burger with a handsome Hollywood actor and call it, attractive. Yet this is hospital food in this example. Can you imagine if people actually on their tray got a food plate that showed a plant-based food plate and why a anti-inflammatory, antioxidant whole food diet could be healing and beneficial for almost every single reason people are in the hospital, or they saw it in the cafeteria, or they saw the food on the tray, or there were posters and there was education. I mean, I think we're missing, it's probably children in school and both patients and their families visiting, as well as the nurses and the doctors. We're missing the biggest opportunity to add health to America by teaching and training all these people on the role. We don't have to necessarily do it 100%. We have got to teach, that food is medicine and it's plant-based food that is that RX. And it's just a shame. And as you said, 800 papers analyzed by 22 scientists concluded that processed red meat causes colorectal cancer and is associated with prostate cancer, breast cancer, and some others. We've had data that pediatric lymphoma, a kind of blood cancer that children can get, may be related to hot dog ingestion. The American Medical Association has said this. American College of Cardiology made some headroads, but nobody's screaming for it to stop. And it'll stop if people stop buying it, if people write letters to CEOs, if people write editorials. I have a social media Facebook page dedicated to every day just talking about this issue, and it needs to be a focal point.
It does. And most doctors actually don't know a whole lot about nutrition. People think they would because they are supposedly experts in the human body and its wellness. But in fact, very few MDs have learned much about nutrition in their medical training. Do you see that changing at all?
So slow and so minor. There are some stunning and wonderful examples of medical schools that actually might even have a cooking class, at least to bring up the topic that one of the best moves you can make is to eat mainly home-cooked meals. Of course, we'd rather they be healthy and plant-based, but it's at least a start. You can control the ingredients. So we're teaching some residents and medical students and advanced trainees. Although in cardiology, my field, probably the disease area that has the single most sensitivity to food choices, there's a statistic that only around 1% of cardiology fellows get more than an hour or two during 3 years of nutrition training. So, I mean, the medical students, hallelujah, but let's carry it on through. So we've got so far to go, and we are just limping along. We're not riveting along. The real answer is people are being taught in medical school, residency, and advanced training what their examination, the board examination, is going to ask them, because one way to judge a program is the passing rate. And you really got to go right to that American Board of Internal Medicine, or which the American Board of Surgery and such, and say, we need questions on nutrition, and then it'll filter down. So it's really a tough process. But, heroes like Dr. Kim Williams, MD, and others are certainly working on this. I lecture in medical schools on nutrition, but you feel like it's about a drop in a very large bucket.
Well, if enough of us are involved, we become more than a bunch of drops. We become the tide turning. And I think we are part of something historical that's taking place. It's really a privilege to see these things before they're commonplace, but it's also a kind of a cross to bear, because you're not going to be popular telling people that the butter and the cheese aren't good for them. People want to eat their sugar and their sweets. And we've come to actually identify highly sweetened and high-fat foods with celebrations and parties and holidays and festivities. And I think it's kind of ironic that we celebrate life and its joys by eating foods often, typically, that are actually decreasing our ability to experience life and joy.
Yeah, that's ironic and very bitter when you stop and think about it. And again, when you have National Nurses Day and it's an ice cream vanilla cake social, missing every opportunity to turn it into a fresh fruit and exercise event, again, you're just falling so short of an opportunity to make a difference. So one can only keep agitating. I have personally, been ostracized a bit by my hospital for being outspoken. Join the club. Anybody that steps out will, be of similar exposure, not in terms of staff privileges, but in terms of being welcomed or being an opportunity to lecture. But you know what? When you know you're right, you can't back down. So I'm a very vocal pain in the butt for a couple local hospitals in Detroit and any other hospital around the world. Somebody wants to send me a picture, I'll be happy to put it out there on social media and do my best to show the good examples and to embarrass for the unacceptable examples.
Well, I'm sure a lot of our listeners in their own social lives experience some degree of ostracization or lack of support from people, maybe in their family, maybe in their workplace, maybe just in their community, when they want to make changes in a healthier direction. And we're herd animals. We need each other, and we will, to belong, sometimes accommodate to what is the norms of our culture. But if those norms are killing us, and if those norms are killing our world at the same time, then I think we actually have a responsibility to act, even though, and be true to ourselves and what we really know is best for us, even if it means rocking some boats, even if it means ruffling some feathers. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely, absolutely. And we live in a world of transparency, and it's not an era of keeping quiet. It's an era of being outspoken, using social media, writing articles, writing letters to the editor, emailing a CEO of a hospital. And I encourage everybody to speak up. And again, I'll give a shout out to a hospital in Florida that just put a plant-based diet as an option on patient menus. That just inspires me that this can happen. Sarasota, Florida, Fort Myers, it is another great example. But this is literally under 10% for sure that are making significant changes. But if one can, everyone can. So speak up, be loud, and be kind, but ask for what people need.
Speak up, be loud, and be kind. I like that. So much is at stake. People's lives go in different directions depending on the choices they make. And the choices they're making now are determining how they're going to feel and how they're going to experience themselves, and frankly, whether they're even going to be alive or functional or competent cognitively as they get older. Recently, the very prestigious medical journal, The Lancet, published an editorial saying that people should limit their meat intake for their health and for the health of the environment. And they made this statement in view of the many studies that have found that eating less meat or no meat lowers your risk for heart disease and cancer and diabetes and obesity and Alzheimer's and a slew of other chronic illnesses. And they made this statement also in view of the fact that eating less meat or no meat may be the single most powerful thing that most of us can do to fight climate change, since it lowers your carbon footprint more than driving a Prius would instead of a gas guzzler. Joel, how do you feel about the Lancet editorial, and how do your colleagues in medicine feel?
Well, it was so welcome. It was so well written, and it did fortunately get a lot of positive press. The Lancet is one of the oldest and most prestigious medical journals. Many breakthrough findings have been there. It's so necessary that every conversation about diet also includes the conversation about the health of the planet, because we want to live in a place where our children and our grandchildren have clean water, fresh air, have forests, and it is truly a serious issue. Because again, it's not so much it's a plant-based doctor pushing it or a plant-based author pushing it. It's the United Nations bringing it up. It's the World Health Organization bringing it up. Oxford University has done such an amazing series of research demonstrating that the only type of agriculture that will sustain the growing population without destroying the planet is indeed plant-based diets and plant-based agriculture. And every one of these is devoid of the label plant-based or vegan. Researchers, this is just serious people trying to catch our attention that, now is the time to eat more plants and eat less animals from every aspect of evaluating the balance.
A lot of us do want to eat more plants and fewer animals, and we are trying to do that in our daily lives. And I want to talk with you for a moment about snacks. And almost all of us snack sometimes. And I think anybody wanting to set themselves up for success with healthy eating needs to have healthy options available so they aren't tempted by something just because it's the only thing that's conveniently and readily available. Some of my favorite snacks are an apple with walnuts, or some raw veggies with a hummus dip, or a pear with a handful of cashews. And about once a week, I'll create smoothie mixes that I keep handy in the fridge so I can pop them into a blender for a quick snack anytime I want it. My smoothie mixes contain chopped up veggies such as kale and celery, frozen berries such as wild blueberries and raspberries and strawberries, and ground flax and chia seeds. That's what I like. Joel, what are some of your favorite healthy snacks?
We need to hang together more, John, because that sounds like a good thing to be doing. And I will say I do the same thing. I usually spend an entire day in my medical office. And number one, I don't like to have too many snacks there because they can go quick. I mean, what you didn't mention and what I don't keep are all the plant-based chips and the plant-based veggie chips that really are a substitute for potato chips, which of course are plant-based too, depending what they're fried in. We really don't need more of those hyper-processed, hyper-palatable, sugar and fat-rich options. So everything you mentioned pretty much was a whole food, and that's what I emphasize. I might have actually a small pack with a few olives now and then, really powers me through a day. I find often too that feeling of I need a snack and hunger can be quelled with hydration. And I'll often just go and have another cup of tea, rarely another cup of coffee. That's just the first thing in the morning. It might just be sparkling water. And all of a sudden, the feeling passed. And I wasn't born as a naturally thin human being, and I still have to challenge myself a bit to pick my snacks carefully. So I find that just hydrating does it. And everything else you said is absolutely on spot.
Well, there are a lot of people who eat plant-based from an ethical point of view. They don't want to contribute to the misery in factory farms that animals are forced to endure in industrial meat production, for example. And they won't eat any animal products because they don't want misery on their menu. But they may not be as healthy as we would like them to be, and they would like to be. There are a lot of what I sometimes call junk food vegetarians or vegans. What advice do you give people who they're time stressed, they're overwhelmed, they're distracted a lot, they're part of our society, um, and yet, so convenient foods and chips and things like that have a draw to them. But how do we help those people become as healthy as possible, eat as healthy as possible, given the limitations of their lifestyle?
Yeah, and it does take a little planning, and it is occasionally, frankly, you've experienced, I've experienced it, maybe in town, maybe out of town, finding something that satisfies. So number one, it's absolutely okay to skip a meal. It may seem odd, it may seem hard, but I won't go into it. But some of the hottest scientific data of the last 2 years has been the important role of some form of fasting to promote health and longevity. And the most accessible one is just about 12 or 13 hours a day. Shut the refrigerator, shut the pantry, stop the snacks. So maybe, 7 p.m. to 8 a.m., great time zone to let your body repair and heal. And that's what I do now. If there's a situation where I don't find something I like, I look at it in a positive way. Wow, this is an excellent opportunity to rejuvenate my body rather than destroy it with something that's plant-based junk food that really wouldn't be normally on my list. I mean, we're all human, and we're not going to be able to stay with that 100% of the time, but try. Number two, it's to prepare and plan. I mean, I'm a nearly 60-year-old physician, and I bring my lunch to work every day because I can control that. And now it's going to be in a glass container, not a plastic container, because I want to control that too. And, and usually breakfast will be of a similar sort. It's on the run that situations fall apart. It's also the celebrations. I mean, frankly, again, not planning to slam the medical community so much, but it's the donuts that show up on the table at work, in a medical office, in a work office. It's the pizza that's brought in. And if you've brought your own food and you've filled up, or you eat before a party, at least partially, eat before a function where you're not sure what you're going to find, you're in a much better place to make a good decision. I mean, people are really hungry sometimes, and there's nothing but bad choices. There is a study from the Harvard School of Public Health that if your option was to eat the general American diet, an unhealthy plant diet option of junk food from plant processed foods or the healthy plant-based food. There's only one that drops your heart disease risk, and it's actually only the healthy plant-based diets of whole unprocessed food. So you actually can do yourself some harm if it's once after another meal of plant-based foods that are in boxes from factories with all the glitz, but none of the nutrition. We're really striving for whole food plant-based is the key.
Whole food plant based is the key. A lot of people wanting to eat whole foods plant based are worried about getting enough protein. There's an assumption in our culture that only animal foods provide enough protein or complete protein. Joel, how valid are those assumptions? And what's the real truth about protein?
Yeah, it's interesting. We used to spend a lot of time as plant-based educators identifying all those sources in the plant world that have a lot of protein so we could compete with that concept. Eat your beans, eat your legumes. Maybe you do chlorella spirulina, they're very high in protein. Actually, the science in the last few years, clear as can be from leading world scientists, Harvard, University of Southern California, is there actually is an advantage until we're in our very senior years to have a lower protein diet to avoid chronic disease, avoid cancer, maybe avoid cardiovascular disease and diabetes. And I point to work by Dr. Morgan Levine at Harvard, Dr. Walter Longo at USC. I was just at a conference where Dr. Friedman from Harvard talked. Everybody's pointing out that we actually slow aging with lower protein diets, certainly when we talk about lower protein from animal sources, packing that chicken in, packing all that salmon in, packing all that beef in to gain protein is actually going to age the body faster. And the exact pathways are known. There's no guesswork here. And there has already been studies showing the impact on survival and the impact on cancer risk and such. So we actually have a better diet when we eat plant-based. And even if it does end up being fewer grams of protein a day, until we're 70, 75, when we might want to start concentrating to avoid losing our muscle mass, we actually have the advantage. We need to celebrate it. So that's the new science. The new science that low protein, not no protein, but low protein is better. And as long as you're eating enough calories a day, you never need to worry in the plant-based camp.
You mentioned the mechanisms by which protein can actually cause us to age, excess protein, obviously, and animal protein in particular. We're still learning about the mechanisms by which animal foods and red meat in particular increase heart disease risk. We know that it does. Um, we know that meat consumption increases levels of trimethylamine and oxide, which is commonly referred to as TMAO. The more red meat someone eats, the more TMAO will be found in their blood and in their urine. What I want to ask you, Joel, is what is TMAO and how significant do you see it being in explaining why red meat consumption is so strongly associated with so many serious medical concerns, including heart attacks and strokes and chronic kidney disease and heart failure and so many others?
I do want to disclose to all the participants in the summit, you and I did not prepare questions and I didn't know what you're going to ask, but I was so hoping you'd bring up TMAO. I think I am the physician in the world that has drawn more TMAO blood samples than any other, and I've managed more patients. So very quickly, in about 2011 at the Cleveland Clinic, some very visionary researchers led by Stanley Hazen, MD, said there's got to be more than just cholesterol and smoking. You know, there's probably something we haven't discovered yet that leads to arteries getting clogged, heart disease, stroke, kidney disease. They had a reason to think this. They had a few on the list. TMAO was one of the three on the list. And they quickly showed with some amazing publications, more heart disease, higher blood level of TMAO. There is now a blood test available from one provider. Then they went on to show that TMAO is produced by initially the bacteria in our gut and our liver, and that it can actually lead to plaque in our arteries. It can lead our blood to clot. If you have plaque in your arteries and your blood's clotting, you're at major increased risk for stroke and heart attack. Then they tracked it back. Where does it come from? They showed very quickly. Red meat has an amino acid called carnitine. Egg yolk has an amino acid called choline. And when you eat a lot of red meat and a lot of egg yolk, you can convert that ultimately in the blood to TMAO and damage can occur. So this has moved at break speed from an idea to the ability in the last 2 years to draw this and counsel a patient. your level's elevated, you need to cut back on your red meat, your egg yolk, you need to find substitutes. It doesn't happen with the white meats, to be very frank, and it certainly doesn't happen with plant protein. How do we know this? Because there's now more than 1,000 scientific publications on TMAO, and one of them quite recently took over 100 subjects and put them on three diets for 4 weeks. One was a heavy red meat diet. Shazam, your TMAO went up. One was a relatively heavy white meat diet, chicken, pork. TMAO didn't go up if it was devoid of egg yolk. And one was a plant protein strong diet. They actually used a powder to make it equal in protein to the other diets. TMAO didn't go up. It's the red meat. It made headlines all over. And it quickly will respond to reduction or elimination of red meat, reduction or elimination of egg yolks in the diet if you make those changes and your level comes down. Now, you could go and find and get your blood tested if you're of concern, or you can just take the message, which is one of 50 different reasons to cut back or cut out red meat and egg yolks, and just assume that that has brought your TMAO level down to a low risk situation.
There are so many advantages to a whole foods plant strong diet. It's the number one most effective thing most people can do to ameliorate climate change. It's incredibly beneficial for the economy, which is currently buckling under the cost burden of chronic disease. It leads to a healthier and more vibrant and vital life. You look better, you feel better, you live better, while you're sparing animals the miserable lives and deaths they currently endure in industrial farms. And it may be the most powerful thing any of us can do to dramatically increase our odds of living a vibrant and vital and long life filled with positive energy. And Joel, you've become one of our most passionate and knowledgeable spokespeople on behalf of what can provide such extraordinary benefits to all of us. And Joel, it's really a joy for me to hear you and share your wisdom with our audience and share what you've learned from over 30 years as a visionary cardiologist at the forefront of treating disease with the most powerful medicine on the planet, plant-strong foods.
Well, that was very kind, and I literally was taking notes so I can share that with my mother, who's also a big fan of yours and a big fan of whole food plant diets for many, many years. But I'm very grateful to be part of this summit. I'm very grateful for all the work you have done and Ocean for so many years. We all need to keep on repeating the messaging for our health, for the health of the planet, for the health of the economy. I couldn't agree more. We have to call out the blatant inconsistencies that exist, at least in the medical world. And I sure hope school systems take note too, as we are seeing some progress in Brooklyn and some other centers that are being forward thinking. And, I hope if we talk next year or the year after, we'll, find major progress we can celebrate if we work hard enough.
Well, we are seeing critical progress, and it's due in no small part to you, Dr. Joel Kahn, and so many others who are standing up and learning and growing and sharing what we are discovering so eloquently. We've been talking here with world-renowned cardiologist and extraordinarily heartful leader, Dr. Joel Kahn, author of The Whole Heart Solution and The Plant-Based Solution. Joel, you've treated more than 12,000 people, and you've saved a lot of lives in the process. But your wisdom and your penetrating insights could save millions more. We want to thank you for telling it like it is, for your eloquence, for your passion, for your clarity, and for your partnership in this food revolution.
Thank you so much.
Wow. Thank you so much to Dr. Joel Kahn and to my dad, John Robbins, for that incredibly heartful and informative conversation. To express your opinions on what you've been hearing and to find out what other people are saying, post and engage in the comments on our broadcast page. Make sure to refresh the comments using the button that's provided there so that you can see the most recent ones that have been shared. Our next presentation will be an interview with Dr. Kim Williams, starting at the top of the next hour, 9 a.m. Pacific Time, noon Eastern, 4 p.m. GMT, followed by Dr. Sarai Stancic at the top of the hour after that. And now I want to share and respond to a few of the comments that we've been receiving. Nancy Seaman said, "Thank you, Dr. Kahn, for speaking up and being that pain in the butt. We need more experts to tell the truth about our food habits. You're truly inspiring me to change mine." Well, yes, Nancy, thank you for sharing that. And thank you so much to Dr. Kahn for his willingness to speak up. You know, we all have moments when we go with the flow, and we all have moments when we are part of turning the tide. And I think what we're seeing in a toxic food culture is that if you want to even just live in integrity with your values, you're going to go against the tide sometimes. And eventually, when enough of us do that, we turn the tide. So thank you, Nancy, for your interest in applying this in your life. I hope you're able to take it forward. We heard from Camilla North, who said, "I have a family history of high blood pressure, stroke, and massive heart attacks in the 40s. I'm 39, and last fall I began having spells of shortness of breath and tachycardia, rapid heartbeat. Although I've been a vegetarian for several years, I often ate junk food. I wasn't exercising. I'd put on 20 pounds over the past 18 months. I was also under a lot of stress, personally and professionally. The cardiologist suggested an implanted monitor. I work in a hospital. I see patients come in weekly to have their blood checked due to taking blood thinners, and the thought of being so restricted, of having to be careful about eating greens, one of the healthiest foods in the world, was sobering. I walked out of the cardiologist's office and canceled my follow-up appointments. I cleaned up my diet further, cutting back on added sugar and processed foods, and focusing on whole foods. I began implementing stress reduction strategies. I feel so much better now. I have so much more energy. I don't think I would have had the awareness to make this decision if I hadn't participated in previous years' Food Revolution Summits. Thank you for sharing this life-changing information." Well, Camilla, thank you so much for sharing your story and your journey, and we are sending all of our love and prayers to you as you go forward from here. And, you know, I want to just highlight something you said. You've been listening, apparently, to the Food Revolution Summit for some years, and it was just when this hit you that you had a knowledge base in the back of your mind that you could apply. And I'm so glad that you had the opportunity to do that. And for everybody listening right now, I want to say some of us get second chances, third chances, but some of us don't. And so if you're learning something here that you might not be applying in your life yet, I want to encourage you to think about how you can put this into action now. Don't wait for some dreadful diagnosis. Don't wait for things to break to start taking care of yourself, because an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And if you are facing a diagnosis or challenges right now, then thank goodness we have some knowledge, we have some insight that can help us to respond to them effectively. And I hope you're gaining resources right here in this summit that help you to do so now or whenever you may need it most. We heard from Tracy Osborne, who said, "The teachings you impart can be bittersweet. Having been diagnosed with autoimmune issues over 30 years ago and prescribed immune suppressant drugs ever after, which greatly affected my liver function. My heart aches with what a difference good food choices could have made to me. Notwithstanding more energy, less pain, less brain fog, better digestion, etc., an overall better quality of life instead of just existing with chronic illness. What if I could have conceived my much-wanted child after the lady who had 3 children after being told she was infertile?" Or like the lady, who had 3 children after being told she was infertile. Many hospital visits later, still no healthy plant-based food choices in my UK hospital menu. I have almost been ingratiated to doctors. Never once in 30 years has a UK specialist told me to eat more fiber. A huge thanks to you for your life's work. Well, Tracy, our hearts go out to you, and I hear the sadness and the loss that you are feeling, that you didn't have this knowledge sooner, and I hope that you are able to put it into action now, because wherever we are, we can never go back, we can never rewrite history, but we can go forward, and we can make a profound difference on the quality and the quantity of life from here when we put this into action. So blessings to you every step of the journey. We heard from Karen Williams, who said, "I eat fairly well. I'm very conscious of what I put in my mouth, and having in my face symptoms which I don't want, the symptom slash helper slash healthcare to dish out pills to me. I want results, and I'm so thrilled to have the Food Revolution 2019 to help me make the changes I need to help me be healthy. Thank you for your time in doing this. I certainly appreciate it. The thoughts of I need to prioritize learning more about nutrition came to my mind the second time I read about this food revolution in my email and went, what? It's right in your face. Join. I bought the package and I am so glad I did. I have a question. I'm interested in joining the Ornish program for reversing disease. How can I do it? Well, Karen, actually, if you go to ornish.com, that's Dr. Ornish's website, you can click on Reversal Program and then click on Locations, and you will find where the Ornish program is offered at various locations in the United States. It can be very helpful to undertake it with a community of cohorts. Lindsay Beckerman said, do we have research looking at the long-term effects of diets such as the autoimmune protocol, which are heavily produce-based, 9 to 12 cups of veggies a day, but with grass-fed and pasture-raised animal products? A McDonald's burger is very different than grass-fed ground beef, right? Well, Lindsay, thanks for raising this. Yes, a McDonald's burger is very different than grass-fed ground beef. And let me be clear that a lot of our speakers are discussing studies and data pertaining to the benefits that come from eating less animal products. Most of the animal products in those studies, by definition, are coming from animals that were raised in factory farms, that were pumped full of hormones and antibiotics, that were fed a very unnatural diet. Many of them never saw the sun or a blade of grass in their lives, and they were morbidly obese. And this is very different than animals that actually run around and eat in a more natural diet and exercise and are more lean and healthy and are not pumped full of drugs. So we don't have a lot of studies on grass-fed animal products and people who eat them over time and their health outcomes as part of an overall healthy diet with lots of vegetables, because generally plant-based eaters tend to be healthier in their lifestyle and other metrics as well. It can be tricky to parse this apart. But what I will say is that what we know about the nutrient profile even of grass-fed meat does raise some concerns. But it's definitely a lot better from an environmental standpoint, from an ethical standpoint, and probably also from a health standpoint. So bottom line is, going on the data that we have to work with now, a whole foods plant-centered diet seems to be the best for most people most of the time. And listen to your body, learn from what works for you. You are the only you on this planet, and we respect and trust you and support you in attuning to the highest wisdom you can find, and combining that with expert advice and the studies and the data from collective shared wisdom. We heard from Nancy Garland Seaman asking about whole fresh fruit and wondering if she needs to limit it. Nancy, there are a lot of studies on fruit showing that it is full of antioxidants, that it's anti-inflammatory, that it improves artery function and can reduce cancer risk. Some people are worried about the sugar levels in it, but according to a great body of research, it seems that because it comes with so much fiber and other vital nutrients, generally fruit is helpful or not harmful, even for people dealing with diabetes. Of course, that's not a universal rule, but that's generally what we tend to see. And I realize we need to move now to the next phase of our broadcast. So in a moment, you will hear us on the line with impeccably credentialed cardiologist Dr. Kim Williams, head of cardiology department at Rush University in Chicago. But first, a short message about Food Revolution Network's mission. At Food Revolution Network, our mission is healthy, ethical, and sustainable food for everyone who eats. We want kids to learn about healthy food in school. We want doctors to learn how nutrition impacts health in medical school. We want the routine use of antibiotics banned from factory farms. We want a world where everyone, regardless of their ethnic or economic background, has knowledge of and access to healthy food for their family. We want a world in which heart disease, cancer, Alzheimer's, obesity, and diabetes are rare, and in which vibrant health is the status quo. We're spreading the word and standing for change. And with every empowerment package purchased, we make a donation to Trees for the Future, enabling them to plant an organic fruit or nut tree in a low-income community. Join this movement and support this mission. Welcome to the Food Revolution Summit, where we explore how you can heal your body and your world with food. This is Ocean Robbins, and I am joined by my dad and colleague, John Robbins, in welcoming our guest, Dr. Kim Williams. Dr. Kim Williams is one of the most impeccably credentialed cardiologists in the world today. He's a fellow and a trustee for the American College of Cardiology, for which he previously served as president. He has board certifications in internal medicine, cardiovascular diseases, nuclear medicine, nuclear cardiology, and cardiovascular computed tomography. Dr. Williams has served on the faculty of the Pritzker School of Medicine, the Wayne State University School of Medicine, and at Rush University Medical Center in Chicago, where he is the head of the cardiology department. He's also served as chairman of the Coalition of Cardiovascular Organizations and of the board of the Association of Black Cardiologists. Kim grew up on the south side of Chicago, where access to health care was a struggle for him and his family. Since then, he's dedicated much of his life to expanding healthcare access to low-income and inner-city communities. So now, Kim, my dad and I are so grateful for your work and to have this opportunity to be with you in this summit. And now for the interview, I'm going to hand it over to my dad and colleague, John Robbins.
Well, thank you, Ocean, for that wonderful introduction. And thank you, Kim, for being with us once again.
Well, thank you for having me.
Oh, it's definitely our honor and pleasure. You know, I remember a Harvard doctor once said to me, if food was medicine, I would have heard about it in medical school. Now, you're now the editor-in-chief of the International Journal of Disease Reversal and Prevention.
Indeed.
Despite the deficiencies in nutritional education in medical schools, how important a role can the food we eat actually play in reversing and preventing disease?
Well, it's interesting that you should ask. I am a busy clinician, but I'm not traveling and lecturing and writing guidelines or all of the things that we do in academic cardiology. I'm actually in the trenches with Inner City Hospital that we took over a few months ago at Mercy Hospital in Chicago. And my plate is always full of inpatients and outpatients and ICU people. And in our medical records, we are trained to keep problem lists. And I will sit there with a patient with maybe 17 different discrete medical problems. And I will actually go through them one at a time and point out how their nutrition impacted or generated that disease. And that is usually a startling revelation for them and hopefully motivation for them to change.
I would think so. I don't know if you know this, Kim, but you've become somewhat famous for having said something that a lot of people find intriguing. And you're being quoted all over the internet about this. It's being said that you said that there are two kinds of cardiologists, those who are vegan and those who haven't read the data.
And those who have not changed, I would have to add a third group. If I were to repeat that today, it would have the people who say very intelligently, I've read the data and the data is all observational. It is incredibly helpful. It's incredibly deep, but it's observational. And therefore, we won't take it as gospel until somebody does a prospective randomized trial with hard outcomes. You just start with the ERIC trial and the NIH AARP trials and the health professional follow-up study and the nurses health study and the Adventist health studies 1 and 2. These are very large data sets. But the skeptics will say that all you can do with observational data, no matter how carefully collected, is use them as hypothesis generating. You can't really make definite prescriptive proposals or recommendations that you must do this or you must avoid this unless it's done in a randomized fashion, which is not easy to do. I would like to see a lot more research done that's prospective and randomized. So that really is our aspirational target. And I would say that I would modify my quote a little bit to say there are two kinds of cardiologists: those who have decided to believe based on huge, important observational series that are really good enough to make recommendations, but not enough to say absolutely, and those who really are going to sort of try to resist it because it challenges everything they do. It challenges their community, it challenges their church, their family, how they were brought up, how they're bringing up their own children. And these are some real challenges, and it's our job to try to meet them.
A lot of us face challenges when we want to change our diets to a healthier one. We have family issues. We were brought up to eat a certain way. Are we saying that our parents were mistaken? And if you're in the medical profession, you have your training and a kind of a culture that can be a pill for every ill. And I want to ask you, back many years ago, when you first learned that your own cholesterol level was very high, what led you, Kim, to review the medical and scientific literature to see what alternatives there might be to going on cholesterol-lowering drugs? And what did you find then when you did that review?
Well, so it's a really good question. I had sort of been primed to think of vegetarian diets as a positive thing when my mom came home from college one day when I was about 12 years old and said, okay, we're vegetarians because if you eat animals, you can end up with plaque in your arteries. And so that was, late 60s. It was actually pretty insightful by the person who told her that. But as you grow older, you make some compromises. And so eating chicken and fish was on the American Heart Association diet. And so that's what I did. And it turns out that there are probably many people who can eat chicken and fish without an excessive rise in cholesterol. I was not one of them. And eliminating them really did result in a significant fall of my own LDL cholesterol. Well, right when I was doing that in March of 2003 was when, to my good academic fortune, to be a member of the American Medical Association and have that journal show up in my office that actually had a publication on this specific issue. What happens to LDL cholesterol if versus a control diet versus a control diet plus a statin? And if you did the so-called portfolio diet, which had a lot of plant sterols, it was completely vegan, no animal products whatsoever. It had a lot of fiber, almonds, and vegetable protein. And it showed that within 2 weeks, your LDL would go down at least 30%. But there's some standard deviations. Some people would go down 10%, sometimes some people would go down 70%. And so I was one of those that had about a 50% reduction doing that type of diet. So it was really good. Now, I know I said earlier that we need more prospective randomized trials. That was a prospective randomized trial, but it was done with a biomarker endpoint, LDL cholesterol and high sensitivity C-reactive protein. So reducing LDL cholesterol and reducing inflammation really does suggest that you're going to decrease heart attack, stroke, death, and improve outcomes.
When you mentioned high sensitivity C-reactive protein, I found myself thinking about a study published in 2018 by the American Heart Association that found that a vegan diet works better than the diet recommended by, ironically, the American Heart Association.
Mm-hmm.
And in this particular study, researchers randomized 100 participants with coronary artery disease and put half of them on a vegan diet and put the other half on the American Heart Association recommended diet for 8 weeks. And they found that the primary marker for inflammation, high sensitivity C-reactive protein, improved substantially more in the vegan group compared with the American Heart Association diet group. Kim, does this suggest that the diet recommended by the American Heart Association doesn't go far enough?
So for those particular markers, you're absolutely right. That is, if we were looking for a biochemical improvement, then we can say without a doubt that in the coronary disease population that was studied by the EVADE trial investigators, that you're going to do better with a vegan diet than with an American Heart Association diet. if we're going to do biochemistry, we should look not just at inflammation and LDL, but at TMAO, that new four-letter word that everyone should know. If they don't, please look into it and make sure that your TMAO levels are really low. And the best way to do that is plant-based nutrition.
You mentioned TMAO, and I think that some of our listeners may not know what that is and why it's important. Would you like to comment on that?
Sure. TMAO, which stands for trimethylamine N oxide, is a substance that is extremely toxic to blood vessels. It enhances the accumulation of plaque, makes the plaque unstable, makes the plaque rupture, and then takes the platelets, the little clotting elements in the bloodstream, and makes them more likely to clot. That would be a formula for events. And so, sure enough, there's a good correlation between a serum, a blood test with TMAO levels that are high, and heart attack, stroke, death, and believe it or not, heart failure. And so this is an opportunity for people to really make some headway in terms of how to protect their blood vessels. They're really just three elements that you can control in some way. Number one, don't eat food that has a lot of choline and beta-ine and phosphatidylcholine, that is meat, eggs, cheese, even fish. And then number two, change the microbiota of the gut so that when they take in these elements, that they don't make a lot of trimethylamine. And then number three, somehow fix your liver so that when it's presented with trimethylamine, it doesn't oxidize it and turn it into TMAO. Well, it might be hard to do the last of those, and maybe someone will come up with a blockbuster drug that's an enzyme blocker, like a statin is an enzyme blocker that affects the liver production of cholesterol. So that is possible, but the other two are much simpler. One, don't eat animal products, okay? And number two, change the microbiota away from what the normal American diet would generate, because vegans have a completely different set of bacteria in their gut. And you could actually take a vegan person and feed them a steak. And they may not feel too good about that, but you measure their TMAO levels and they will not go up because they don't have the bacteria. Vegans don't have this kind of microbiota and they're protected. Not that they would want to go and eat a steak, but at least we know that the TMAO levels will stay pretty low. So, it behooves everyone to understand the relationship between the novel risk factors. So we've talked a little about LDL, mostly mine. You mentioned C-reactive protein in the EVADE trial. We've gotten TMAO. I have to list a fourth candidate, which would be heme iron. That is, iron that's in the blood of an animal is going to have an oxidation state that produces reactive oxygen species, upsets plaque, promotes plaque rupture. And so between the four of them, I honestly can't tell you which is the most important. If you had a cholesterol-free diet, a diet that was anti-inflammatory, had no heme iron, and didn't generate TMAO, that would be pretty darn good. And that's a vegan diet.
Well, thank you for that explanation. That's helpful to all of us. What would you consider the most memorable research published since you became a physician, and why?
I would start off with the work of Dean Ornish. This is a body of work showing that you could slow down the growth of prostate cancer with plant-based nutrition, that you could reverse the diameter stenosis on a coronary angiogram over a long period of time, that you could take a nuclear scan that was horrifically abnormal, intervene with nutrition, and improve the effect of the blood flow to the heart muscle and show significant improvement without putting a stent necessarily in that artery. That kind of plaque regression, the prevention that happens with that, I would put that as one big program that Dean Ornish has come up with and prosecuted it pretty well in terms of being able to guide us. There is good data on mindfulness, which he promotes, and there's good data on exercise, which he promotes. And so smoking cessation and having a group for emotional stability, all of those promote cardiac health, and he's doing all of it. And so people will say, well, vegan diet, how do we know it does anything? You're doing all those other wonderful things. No question that we could use more data to try to dissect out, but I'm not sure that for most Americans that dissection is really necessary. What we really need to do is adopt all those things because they're so helpful and they can decrease this burden of cardiovascular disease mortality that we have been in is now 101 years in a row. And at some point, it's got to stop.
I find it sad that so many people wait until they're sick to do something that could have prevented the problem in the first place. So a lot of people will hear about the Ornish program, or they'll hear about the work of Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn, but they file it away. They don't think it's relevant to them. They think they're doing fine, and why fix what isn't broken yet? Kim, if you had their attention and you could speak totally freely, what would you want to say to people who think that way?
This does come up. It typically comes up in my clinic for people who have risk factors that are asymptomatic, like a high cholesterol or high blood pressure, and they haven't had a stroke, and they don't have kidney failure, and haven't had a heart attack. I ask them 3 questions. How long do you want to live? Number 2, how healthy do you want to be? And number 3, how much life do you want to have in that longer life? How much do you want to enjoy your life, be active, be capable, not be a burden to your family because of your health? And I don't meet any patients who don't say that they want the maximum of each one of those 3. And so that's the opportunity to go in there and talk about all kinds of lifestyle issues that can improve outcomes, that have proven to improve outcomes. Probably my favorite handout nowadays, you mentioned Esselstyn. I actually give out his diet all the time because Ann Esselstyn put a little thing on the internet, the 12 steps to Esselstyn diet, and it's so neat and it's so handy. I do that all the time. But the other handout I give them is right from our American Heart Association, American College of Cardiology hypertension guidelines. I was one of the members on that publication, on the guideline writing group, and we were so criticized for changing the definition of hypertension, and people were saying that we're in the pocket of the pharmaceutical industry. That means they didn't read the data. Well, they didn't read the article. If you read the guideline, you'll see that they were doubling, tripling down on lifestyle to manage high blood pressure. And so we talk about decreasing sodium less than 1,500 milligrams a day, decreasing alcohol consumption, doing 3 different types of exercise: dynamic, resistance, and isometric exercise. Making sure that people are doing as many plants in their diet, fruits, nuts. Yes, there is low-fat dairy in the DASH trial, but we actually show the data that the less low-fat dairy you do and the more of the plant stuff in the DASH diet, the better your blood pressure response is going to be. And then weight loss. And obviously, plant-based nutrition and exercise are the ways to do that. Each one of those, excluding the diet, is about 4 to 5 millimeters off of your blood pressure. If you do the diet, that's about 11 millimeters off of your blood pressure. And the funny thing is, they're all additive. So if you're going to take all those things, those 7 different things, and you're going to get 40 millimeters off your blood pressure, who needs drugs? Well, there are going to be some people who need drugs, but to say that we were pushing drugs was just meant that they were not paying attention to those. But anyway, those are in the guideline. It's 2 tables. I just print them out and give them to people. And I go through each one of them where they're going to have a benefit by changing their weight, changing their eating habits, doing the exercise, cutting the alcohol, and changing particularly how much sodium and potassium in that ratio. And hopefully people are finding it educational, but this is an opportunity for us to really impact one of the most difficult diseases that we have, the most expensive diseases that leads to the most cardiovascular morbidity and mortality, and that's hypertension.
You mentioned that there will be some people that need drugs regardless. In the US last year, something like 4 billion prescriptions for pharmaceutical drugs were written, and that's the equivalent of something like 12 prescriptions for every single man, woman, and child in the country. Kim, if by some miracle we were all to adopt a whole foods, plant-strong diet, what percentage of those 4 billion prescriptions do you think would no longer need to be written?
If you could start with the children and the adolescents and not develop the diseases that we then treat with prevention techniques such as improving diet, then you're really going to get a different answer. So what we're typically doing is after someone has already fallen into the river, then we're pulling them out and we're giving them, diet, exercise, medication. After I've sort of came up with a little tiny acronym that all of my patients can remember. Dr. Williams wants to save me. What does SAVE stand for? SAVE, statin, aspirin, vegan diet, and exercise. And after a heart attack, or even before the heart attack, when they have known coronary disease, this is something that if you take it seriously, you're going to do very well. But we have a lot of patients who are not adherent with their statin. They will not change their diet because of cultural and family factors. It's too difficult to exercise. And adherence to aspirin is highly variable. So I know I'm asking them a lot. It sounds like 4 simple things with a huge impact, but they don't get the traction that they deserve. Well, but what you're asking really is, how do we not have to get to that SAVE location? And that is to start early. We need to be in schools, healthy choices into schools, so that we don't develop the obesity epidemic and have all of the development of blood vessel issues that are going to happen over a 20, 30-year period that's happening at younger and younger ages. So let's start now. Why mop up the floor when we can turn off the faucet?
You talked about statins as part of the SAVE prescription that you give to your patients. To my eyes, drugs seem to have become a modern day enabler, in some cases giving patients license to stick with bad habits by masking the symptoms of disease. I've heard the phrase Lipitor syndrome used to refer to people who are taking statins and who think that because they're taking the drugs, they're free to eat Big Macs since the drug has them covered.
When a patient has a coronary event, I actually have a conversation with them at the bedside in the coronary care unit. I actually ask them a series of questions, and you would not believe the number of times that patients get this completely right. I start by saying, tell me your understanding of why you're here. I said, well, I had a heart attack. And going, okay, and what is a heart attack? That's where one of my arteries was blocked. I said, yeah, and what was it blocked with? And it's usually a little pause and say, cholesterol and plaque. I said, and where did that come from? Usually a very short pause, and people say, I ate it. And if I can get people to connect those 4 dots, then we have a good opportunity to try to explain that going forward, you can support us in Rush Cardiology by continuing to do what you're doing. And, if your family is fortunate and you're fortunate, you won't have sudden cardiac death because you're taking your medications, but you'll have another blockage come up and you'll come back with chest pain, and we will open up another stent and we'll make a lot of money. Or you could do the right thing, and that is, don't give us any more of your money. Okay? Leave your clinic spot open for someone else that we could treat. And make sure that you give us sort of the happiness of knowing that we've had affected your healthcare, rather than the money of knowing that we haven't been able to change your behavior. And they'll laugh a little bit, but it's very serious. That is, we are out not to increase revenue in cardiology, but to try to decrease the number 1 killer of Americans. It's been out there since, like I was saying, 1918 was the last time it wasn't the number 1 killer of Americans.
So when patients want to change their diets, they're up against some kind of medical event and they're motivated at that moment. They can get confused because there's so much controversy and confusion in the public discourse around diet. And I want to talk about that for a moment. There was the recent study published in the Journal of the American College of Cardiology by researchers at Harvard School of Public Health. And they looked at diet and health information from participants in 2 long-running trials, the Nurses' Health Study that has followed 85,000 women, and the Health Professionals Follow-Up Study that has tracked 43,000 men. And what they found was that people who replaced saturated fat, which is, of course, mainly found in meats and dairy products, with refined carbohydrates, didn't lower their risk of heart disease. There was no advantage to reducing consumption of saturated fat if there was a corresponding increase in consumption of refined carbs like white flour and sugar. And those findings have given rise to the idea that there's nothing to be gained from reducing the amount of saturated fat in your diet. But, and this is what is most important, I think, The study also found that people who replaced saturated fat with legumes and whole grains with whole food carbohydrates did, in fact, substantially lower their risk of heart disease. So, Kim, what do you make of these findings? And do you encounter in the patients you interact with the kinds of confusions that I'm referring to?
If you take a grain and you refine it, or you take the oil, refine it, you fry foods, even if it started off as a vegetable, the white flour, the white sugar. If you take all of those unhealthful plant-based items and you put them in your diet, it increases mortality more than eating an animal-based diet. And it's hard for most of us vegans to imagine because we all like our vegan muffins and the vegan cupcakes and the vegan ice cream. And the fact of this, the further away from a whole food plant-based diet you get, the more difficult you're going to have. So now what happens with the sugar? What is the problem with it? I gave you the four for the animals, which would have been, just to review, saturated fat, cholesterol, inducing inflammation, TMAO, and heme iron. And so what about the French fries and the sugar and the desserts and all of these things that even though they have no animal products? Well, the saturated fat that you get by frying something is all obviously going to be damaging, but the sugar induces insulin response, and that insulin is basically a growth hormone, and it'll grow all kinds of things that you don't want to grow. Plaque in your arteries, central obesity, therefore making you insulin resistant. And how do you combat insulin resistance? Increase your serum insulin levels, which then generates more central obesity, and you end up in this endless loop. So the way to get out of that loop, break the cycle, is a whole food plant-based diet, a good exercise program. And for primary prevention, this is exactly what we need to do.
Well, I'm hearing in the discourse out there, there's people who are advocating high-fat diets or some other approach, but they're saying that sugar is the demon, sugar's the problem, that it's sugar that's bad for our hearts and our bodies. And they have a point, for sure. Sugar is bad for us, but particularly at the levels of added sugars that are in the standard American diet. There's no question that's harmful. Yet, you've said, and I agree, that both sugar and saturated fat have negative effects on heart health. And Kim, does it seem to you that this part of the message is having a hard time getting out there, that it isn't either or sugar or saturated fat that's to blame? It's both of them that we need to move away from?
It really is. And I don't want to name names, but so I'll try not to use any of the cute names because people might have seen me speaking at one of those places. But let's call them the vegetarian festivals. Okay. When you walk on the floor of one of those, as I'm walking through to try to find the lecture hall and set up my slides, and there's such good looking stuff. That's beignets and ice cream and all of these things. And those are the places with the long lines. And you just feel for the people that I hope they could all show up to the lecture, look at the nurses' health study and health professional follow-up, realize that they're really hurting themselves.
Well, I'm hearing that as a cardiologist, you're not a fan of junk food vegans. I think it's never been easier than it is today to be a junk food vegan. The numbers of products that are available and mouth-watering and engineered to make us crave them are always increasing. For many years, the Centers for Disease Control and the National Cancer Institute have been recommending that we eat at least 5 servings of fruits and vegetables every day. There was a study in 2017 that concluded that eating 10 servings a day is actually much better because it produces a greatly lowered risk for all forms of cancer and also a greatly reduced risk for heart disease and stroke and actually a very long list of other illnesses. And yet, today, less than a third of Americans eat even the recommended 5 servings of fruits and vegetables. And that's when you count French fries as a vegetable, and half of the vegetable consumption in the U.S. today is French fries. So, Kim, from your perspective, how important is it to our health and well-being that we eat lots and lots of fruits and vegetables?
So it's interesting that we actually have a double effect. what I like to call a direct benefit and then a substitutionary benefit of eating a whole food plant-based diet full of fruits and vegetables. Yes, there are antioxidants and there are minerals and there are vitamins and there's fiber and there's all of these wonderful things. Vegetable protein. Let's talk about vegetable protein for a moment. This was from the Northwestern group led by Jeremiah Stamler, where they looked at the micronutrients of a diet and the effects on blood pressure and came to the conclusion that grains, whole grains that actually have glutamic acid as an amino acid in the vegetable protein, that specifically lowers blood pressure. And so all of a sudden, I was glad to see it from the Intermap study group of why my blood pressure went from 128 to 104 when I went vegan. It's the vegetable protein. So I could go on and on about the benefits of a plant-based diet. But you know what? That's not the only thing. That's the direct benefit. The substitutionary benefit is that when people are eating a big bowl of beans and greens and celery, tomatoes, and eating, salads and vegetables, they're not eating the animal products. Okay. Probably the best randomized trial evidence was the Mediterranean diet that I mentioned a little earlier, New England Journal of Medicine. They had a subsequent publication a couple of years later talking specifically about a pro-vegetarian Mediterranean diet. And what they found is that you divide people by how many vegetables they ate. Okay. The top two quintiles had an incredibly large mortality benefit, about a 42% reduction in death. This is really, this goes back to my incantation to patients. How long do you want to live? Adventist Health Studies looking at vegan versus non-vegan diets. 9.5 years for a man. How much of that do you want to give up? And is there really a food that tastes so good that you would give up a decade of life? And I think for most of us, if we were having a thoughtful approach, we wouldn't give up our lives or the enjoyment of our lives, enjoyment of our families in order to eat something that's unhealthy.
Well, sometimes people think, well, I don't know that I want to live that long when they look around and see people in their 80s and 90s with dementia and all kinds of autoimmune dysfunctions and arthritis and basically falling apart in a lot of ways. The quality of life isn't there. They've extended their lifespan, but they've not extended their health span. And so it's the quality of life often that's really the issue with aging. And a lot of people have thought, we've been taught, it's been a cultural belief that's been fairly widespread that animal protein is superior to plant protein. It's the gold standard. But we now have a lot of research showing that substituting plant protein for animal protein is actually highly beneficial for people with kidney disease and a lot of other conditions. But there's still a lot of controversy about animal protein and plant protein. Kim, you mentioned it a moment ago. Can you speak more about this and the implications for quality of life as people get older?
It's so funny, John, when you said you wanted to talk about my famous quote, I'd almost forgotten about the two kinds of cardiologists. But the other one that's very relevant to this, the other quote that I said after reading, again, it's Nurses Health and Health Professional Follow-Up, that there are no safe animal products for human consumption. Take your bacon, change it to nuts, and that will dramatically reduce your cardiac death rate. The second big surprise, and I guess the first one wasn't really a surprise, but the second one is that even though processed meat is on the World Health Organization's list of carcinogens, a class 1 carcinogen, egg consumption was numerically more tied to cancer death than was processed meat. That was a surprise. Then you go back and you look at the 12% increase in cardiovascular mortality with egg consumption versus dairy versus poultry. And they were all around 11 or 12% increase. And the one that didn't reach statistical significance was eggs. And all the statisticians who are listening to the broadcast automatically understand that the reason it didn't reach statistical significance was because the number of observations was smaller with eggs. Why was that? It's because they already died of cancer, and dead people don't have heart attacks. It's kind of comical in a way, but not really. And then if you look at the final outcome of that article, and that again, that was in, I always like to joke that JAMA is my vegan propaganda journal, but no, it's the Journal of the American Medical Association. They are very highly sought after. First of all, the peer review is at a very high level, and they're not going to put flawed studies into their journal. The bottom line for all-cause mortality is that every single animal product would increase mortality. Said the other way, if you substitute vegetable protein for any of those, that is poultry, dairy, eggs, red meat, or processed meat, you would improve mortality. And so there really are no safe animal product for any of us who have at least one cardiac risk factor.
Well, when you mention the World Health Organization determining that processed meat, including bacon, is a major contributor to cancer, they've specifically designated colon cancer and said that there really is no safe amount of processed meats, such as bacon, for consumption. Recently, the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, a group I know that you are well aware of, launched a Break Up with Bacon campaign, and that included ad buys on TV and radio and newspapers and magazines and bus shelters. And the ads told people that bacon can bite you back and urged people to break up with bacon. Kim, the colon cancer rates in poorer neighborhoods are triple that of wealthier areas, and rates among African Americans are nearly triple that for whites. How do you feel about the Break Up with Bacon campaign, and what obstacles do we have to overcome to succeed in those communities that are hit hardest by colon cancer?
We sort of call that the revenge of the animals. You eat them and they eat you back from the inside. You talk about the disparity in income, that fast food is cheap. Fast food is cheap because a lot of the things that go into the fast food are actually subsidized by our government. And so people will look at that and Google it, and then they'll see the articles about billions going from farm subsidies to produce unhealthy items such as high fructose corn syrup, to just pick one. Well, it turns out that the government paying to make us more overweight and unhealthy so that then the government can cover the illnesses that are generated, there's a bit of a disconnect. And it would be great to keep working on this along with the American Medical Association to try to convince Congress to back off of the things that are supporting unhealthful items in the diet. So if you do the marketing right and you do the subsidies for healthy things, then you could talk about, say, the SNAP program for people who are really poor. That's formerly the Food Stamp program. It's now called SNAP. Why not have, which is AMA policy, why not have SNAP only apply to healthful foods? And this would hopefully nudge us in our poorer communities to more healthful plant-based choices. If we could do that, it would really have an impact. Why is it not just an issue for the families and the human tragedy of hypertensive nephropathy going to dialysis and stroke and premature death that we face in our African American community, and having just higher cardiovascular death rates than any other group in the United States? It's not just a burden on the African American community. That is, once you get kidney dialysis, it's being paid for by the government. And so it's a regressive tax on everyone to have poor diets in any community. And so let's all do the right thing. Let's change the subsidies. Let's talk about it in schools, talk about it in churches. And hopefully we'll get to the point where everyone hears the message that you talked about. Get up to 10 vegetable servings per day. And hopefully there's no room left in your stomach for anything that's unhealthy. What a world we would live in. I probably wouldn't have a job as a cardiologist, but I'd figure out something else to do.
I'm sure you would, because you're so creative and brilliant and persistent. Kim, are there positive changes you're seeing, things that make you hopeful in the food as medicine world today? And on the individual patient doctor level, are you seeing anything in your own practice that gives you reason for hope?
So I would say there's two sides of it. One is you're putting this information out there. Someone is going to listen to this, and hopefully they'll spread the message and you will change some lives. So thank you for what you're doing. And I applaud you and everyone else who's trying to get a message of health out to people, even though it's not going to enrich you or anything like that. So let's try to get the word out to as many people as we can to try to stop this epidemic from continuing. So that's the one side. So thank you for taking this seriously. On the other side, in cardiology, we have a unique position. We're starting to get more cardiologists who understand about nutrition, and they are going to the bedside. And I've just seen so many wonderful examples. I end up giving cardiology grand rounds all over the country. And there was this one place in Portland, Maine, beautiful place, by the way. Portland, Oregon's beautiful as well, but Portland, Maine, I was at Maine Medical Center and talking about nutrition, and they had one of the cardiology fellows who said that he had fixed the problem in their coronary care unit. I said, well, how'd you do that? He says, just write the orders for a vegan diet. And you don't tell the patient. Then the patient will complain, and that generates a conversation. And that conversation, the way he described it, was so precious. That is, really? You don't want a vegan diet? You know you're here because you had a heart attack because you ate animals, right? And you really, I mean, we'll change your diet back if that's what you really want. Okay. And he's that is such a unique approach that most of us haven't thought of. But our next generation of cardiologists are going to be so well versed in nutrition compared to what we grew up with that they can really make a difference. And so I'm looking at that. I mean, what's the data that this can work? I mean, it's not just anecdotes in my clinic where no vegan yet has had a cardiac event, which is great. But what I'm really looking at is that if you remember the cigarette stuff, so with the nicotine gum, the nicotine patches, and all the medications, even some behavioral therapy, you could get 10, 15, 19% success rate at 1 year. But if a cardiologist at the bedside in the coronary care unit during a heart attack tells the patient, you're having a heart attack, you have to quit smoking. The last time I saw data on that, it was 47% at 1 year that were successful in quitting. Now, you could say that that's terrible, but that's so much better than everything else. Well, we now have that teachable moment in terms of nutrition. And we can go to the bedside in the coronary care unit when someone really is motivated to make a difference and not go through what they just went through. And if we continue to take advantage of that opportunity, we can make a difference. And hopefully that person doesn't just change themselves, but they can impact their family. We have a lot of family discussions about nutrition and healthful lifestyles. And hopefully we can impact the whole lot.
Is there anything else you would like our listeners to know that we haven't had a chance yet to talk about?
The first foray into changing the outcomes of people is to change the diet, change the lifestyle, to recognize that everyone should be doing a heart-healthy diet, and not just the fad diet that someone thinks is heart-healthy, but the nutritional components that have a sound basis in physiology, biochemistry, and epidemiology. And that pretty much would be a plant-based diet. Now, I'm not saying that we don't need some more randomized trials. We do, because we're not going to capture the minds of the guideline writers until we have them. But until then, the hypothesis generated by all of the large prospective observational trials that I've mentioned would indicate that more vegetables is better, less animals is even better. And this is where we should change our children, our families, our neighborhoods, our workplace, and ourselves.
Well, I think our culture is shifting and in many ways making it easier for people to understand the benefits of a plant-strong whole foods diet, and also making it easier for people to make truly healthful food choices on a regular basis. Kim, if our culture continues to move in that direction, it will be thanks to people like you. And I so appreciate the pioneering work you've done and continue to do and will continue to do. You were the first vegan president of the American College of Cardiology, and you've been a pioneer in so many ways. I think everyone who has a heart beating in their chests owes you a debt of gratitude. It's been a real pleasure for me to speak with you today, and as it always is, and on behalf of Ocean and myself and everyone involved in the food revolution, I thank you for your outstanding work and, of course, for being with us today.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity, and I hope that everyone hears your messages and that you keep going because you're really making a difference in this world.
We've been talking with American College of Cardiology trustee and Rush University Medical Center Cardiology Department head, Dr. Kim Williams. Kim, your credible, thoughtful, wise leadership are helping shift the course of cardiology and in the process to heal so many lives. We're deeply grateful for your important work, for your wisdom, for your voice in this movement, and for your partnership in this food revolution.
Thanks, Ocean. I really appreciate it. I have to keep saying it though. If I'm really successful, I will totally be unnecessary. Wouldn't that be nice?
Yes, it would be. And we will, I'm sure you will find other absolutely wonderful things to do with the free time. Thank you so much to Dr. Kim Williams and to my dad and colleague John Robbins for that informative and fascinating conversation. To express your opinions on what you're hearing and to find out what other people are saying, post and engage in the comments section on our broadcasts page. Make sure to refresh the comments so you can see the most recent ones that have been shared. Our next presentation will be an interview with Dr. Sarai Stancic, who runs one of the most innovative medical clinics in the world today. It will start at the top of the hour in about 13 and a half minutes. Linda Blankenheim said, I like Dr. Kim Williams. He is so down to earth and talks to people in a way people get it. I love hearing about all the work he's done. Thank you, Linda. I do too. We heard from Ruth Tinkham, who said, fantastic day 3. I missed yesterday, but because I purchased the empowerment package, I will be able to listen later today. I am so glad for this, and it has come in time for me to get back on track. Slowly straying from near 100% plant-based nutritarian lifestyle, I feel the negative effects, but the lack of support and poor eaters all around me have made it tough. I do feel less energetic and so many other ill health effects just from minor straying, knowing I needed to get back but not having the willpower. This series has been perfect. Well, Ruth, thank you for sharing that, and I join you in being glad that you got the empowerment package so you can listen to these interviews anytime or place you like without having to worry about fitting them into a busy schedule or catching them all. And also because you're going to have the notes, you'll have the transcripts and action checklists and all the bonuses for life thereafter. So congratulations on making that choice. And I actually want to acknowledge a lot of people get excited, get passionate, get motivated, and say, oh my gosh, I want to make a big change. I want to do this. And then over time, life gets in the way, habits set in, challenges develop that make it hard to stick with it. And maybe a lot of people listening can relate to this. There's a big difference between knowing what you do and doing what you know. And so actually Food Revolution Network created a program, we call it Whole Life Club. It's our member community, and it is designed to help you stay with it for your whole life. And this is an ongoing community with recipes and wisdom and community and support. Every single month we have a theme, and we kind of walk you through another aspect of healthy living, whether it's heart health or anti-cancer living or detoxification or gut health. And we have a guest expert and questions and answers and action checklists and videos. And I'm sharing all this because, Ruth, it sounds like it might be a powerful resource for you. You will actually find a link for it on our broadcast page. And stay on our email list and we'll tell you more about it as well. You can join anytime. We will also have some special opportunities coming up on the horizon. This is an amazing, amazing program. It's only been going for about 6 months. It's already changing thousands of lives. So hopefully we'll see you in Whole Life Club in the future. We heard from Tanya Cotton, who said, wonderfully inspiring interviews. Thank you so much for your commitment to bringing these leading experts together and sharing their wisdom and experience with us all. May we all have the courage to turn this knowledge into action and lead healthier, happier lives. Yes, Tanya, thank you for sharing that. May we all have the courage to turn this knowledge into action and lead healthier, happier lives. At the end of the day, that's what it all comes down to, right? Not just how much we know, but what we do. Rodika Albu said, will you also tackle the issue of B12 deficiency in vegetarians and particularly in vegans? Yes, Radhika, I'd be glad to address that right now, and it's an important topic, so I thank you for raising it. Vitamin B12 is essential for human health. It prevents nerve damage, it protects your heart, and it supports your overall energy level as well as your immune system. Some people make some of it in their digestive tracts, but not all of us make enough. And in terms of intake, it's only found naturally in dirt and in animal products. In the last few generations, we've gotten a lot better with our hygiene, and now most of us aren't eating many dirty vegetables from the earth or foods that were foraged wild, so we're not getting B12 that way. And so for vegans and vegetarians and people eating a plant-based diet that doesn't include animal products, they may not be getting any nutritional B12 in their diet. If you're not supplementing with B12, research shows that you could end up being deficient, and actually that isn't just for vegetarians and vegans. In fact, studies are showing that somewhere between 20 and 40% of all people in the world are deficient in B12. So even meat eaters are often deficient because the vitamin isn't getting adequately absorbed by their bodies. So I generally suggest taking a B12 supplement regularly, whether you're vegan or not. Now, how much should you take? Well, the official recommendation in the US is 4 micrograms per day, but a lot of leading medical experts are recommending getting at least 100 or 200 micrograms per day. It is not very expensive. It's easy to take. And there is a supplement that I think could be a great solution for a lot of people. It's called Complement, and it is specifically designed for healthy eaters to get the specific nutrients that can still be hard to get enough of even on a whole foods plant-centered diet. So specifically it provides B12, vitamin D3, and vegan sources of the omega-3 fatty acids, DHA and EPA, plus zinc and vitamin K2. And it's a wonderful resource to cover all these bases at once. Our family takes Complement daily, and the company that makes it would like to gift you with a 2-month supply, Radhika. So our team will follow up with you and get it sent to you, and I want to say congratulations. For anybody else who's interested, you can go to foodrevolution.org/complement to find out more. Again, that's foodrevolution.org/complement. Don Weiss said, I am appreciating refreshing my enthusiasm to continue to try to work with a plant-strong diet. Last year, after listening to hours of the Food Revolution Summit, I committed to eat vegan. I keep hearing people talk about how much more energy they experience from this dietary change. But for myself, I have struggled with insufficient energy. I found that I didn't do well with soy products or wheat products, so perhaps I wasn't getting sufficient protein, or maybe my body wasn't metabolizing the nutrients from other sources adequately. For whatever reason, I found myself crashed out on the couch for hours a day, and testing found, also Dawn mentioned, that she had her LDL cholesterol levels had actually gone up. I added back some animal products to my diet and my energy came back. I've considered myself to be a conscious eater for many years, even before going vegan, and I was disappointed that it didn't seem to work for me. Of all the people I know, I'm the healthiest eater, and I have been for many years. Everybody in my family has had cholesterol issues, even when being fairly slim. Is it true that some bodies do better with some animal products? Well, Dawn, I want to thank you for sharing your experience and for being on the learning journey. I know I've said this a couple times, but I'll say it again now. Just because large studies show us that certain choices are best for most people, most of the time, does not mean they are necessarily best for you all the time. You're the only you on this planet. So you need to listen to your body and your own life experience. And the reality is that for some people it can be challenging to meet all their nutrient needs on an entirely vegan diet if they also are not eating any soy or any wheat. That doesn't mean it can't be done. I'm just saying that it can be a bit more challenging. So in your specific case, I would encourage you to make sure you're eating plenty of greens, plenty of fruits and berries, plenty of nuts and seeds and legumes and whole grains. And I'll also add it could be that a predominantly plant-based diet with some consciously sourced animal products might be the best option for you. If you're going to include some animal products, then purely from a health perspective, I would say that low mercury wild fish or pasture raised eggs might be your best options. And I do know some people who have experienced that small amounts of animal products in the context of a whole foods, plant centered diet seemed optimal for them. So if that's the case for you, Dawn, then bless you on the journey of finding what works. I want to support you in being optimally healthy, and I'm always more interested in what actually works than any specific ideology. In my new book, 31 Day Food Revolution, which came out earlier this year, I wrote about this in some depth and looked at some of the pros and cons of consciously sourced animal products. And if you haven't already gotten it, I would encourage you to pick up a copy of 31 Day Food Revolution. We heard from Jill Heyerdice, who said these interviews have been eye-opening on many levels. What is the biggest takeaway is the message of hope that pervades these speakers' messages. Well, Jill, thank you for sharing that. And that, honestly, is what's moving me so much too today, is the message of hope. Because we live in a world where we have so many of us that are sick and suffering, and now we know that we can do better. And this is all about hope. But it's not just hope as something that happens out there, a spectator sport. It's hope in action. It's hope that actually becomes more of a verb than a noun, I think, because it's what we can do. It's what we can create. It's what we can live. And as we step into the choices that are available to us, we discover whole new landscapes opening up. Vicky Galvin said, wow, my spouse and I did a diet change last year. Both of us have lost 50 to 60 pounds by choosing to make our diet plant-based. It's hard to give up old habits, but little changes every day is the way to go. Love this summit. Thank you, Vicky. We're so happy that you and your husband have released, or your spouse have released all this weight, and we look forward to supporting you in carrying it forward for the long term. Deborah Schreiber said, thank you so much for the action checklist. I love it. Thank you for distilling each speaker's message down to doable steps. Your notes are so much better than mine. God bless you for all you're doing for the planet, people, and animals. Well, Deborah, thank you. And for those who are wondering what the action checklist is, Deborah's talking about something that comes with the empowerment package, which provides not just the MP3 recordings of all of the summit interviews for life, not just the transcripts, but also these action checklists that help you apply it and distill the top takeaways from each of the summit interviews. So Deborah, I'm so glad you're finding those valuable. Those are new this year. We've never offered them before, and they come with the empowerment package. You know, one of the things that I love about the work I get to do is hearing the incredible stories of transformation from so many people who are putting what we're learning into action and getting results. I think that these stories are so healing because they give affirmation to the choices we're making, and they give us hope to those who are struggling. And they point the way for so many of us towards what's possible. And then we can ground that hope, that possibility into action. Carrie Zimmerman lives in Madison, Wisconsin. She participated in one of our summits, and the experience changed her life. She recorded a few words for us that I want to share with you now. Here's what Carrie had to say.
Hello, my name is Carrie Zimmerman. I am 32 years old and live in Madison, Wisconsin. Currently, I'm feeling so much better than I have in years, and much of that is thanks to the Food Revolution Summit. My parents both died with cancer, mom at 52 years old, dad at 63. As if that wasn't devastating enough, I felt that I was on the same path, leading to disease and premature death. I had my own health concerns since I was a child. I was overweight and then obese by early high school and had significant digestive problems and was diagnosed with IBS. By this time last year, I had been dealing with constant abdominal pain for over a year and a half. It negatively impacted every aspect of my life, and it didn't go away for even a moment. There were many doctors and many tests, but no real answers. The Food Revolution Summit gave me the information, inspiration, and motivation that I needed to improve my diet and lifestyle. The constant pain that I had endured for over 22 months disappeared, and so did the IBS. John, Ocean, and every single one of the speakers, you helped me realize that I could heal myself with food and inspired me to share that information with others. And I will be doing that. I'm currently working on becoming certified as a health coach. You have changed my life, and I am just getting started. Thank you so very much.
Well, thank you to Carrie for those inspiring words. We heard also from so many other fabulous people. One of our participants said, "I loved Dr. Barnard's talk. I can't grasp as much as I want during the live talk, so I set up as early as 3:30 a.m. to listen and re-listen. I was paralyzed in a car wreck the day after my 32nd birthday. I've had over 3 dozen surgeries, ate horrible hospital food, and have lived with chronic pain. I followed the summits. I'm making drastic dietary changes. I'm on a mission to learn new plant-based recipes. Thank you for sharing this great info with us." Well, thank you for sharing your experience, and I want you to know we are going to gift you with an empowerment package so you don't have to be up at 3:30 a.m. in order to listen, because you'll own it all for life. Congratulations. And now it's time for us to join with Dr. Sarai Stancic. Here we go. Welcome to the Food Revolution Summit, where we explore how you can heal your body and your world with food. This is Ocean Robbins, and I am joined by my dad and colleague, John Robbins, in welcoming our guest, Dr. Sarai Stancic. Sarai Stancic, MD, is the founder of Stancic Health and Wellness, one of the most innovative lifestyle medicine practices in the United States. Her interest in lifestyle medicine is rooted in her experience living with multiple sclerosis and achieving remarkable results. Dr. Stancic has conducted clinical studies and has authored several research papers in peer-reviewed medical journals. She serves as Chief Medical Officer for WellStart Health, a digital team-based intensive lifestyle change program. She's producer for the 2019 documentary film Code Blue, Redefining the Practice of Medicine, which highlights the practice of lifestyle medicine to prevent, treat, and manage chronic illness. So now, Sarai, my dad and I are so excited and grateful for your groundbreaking work, and we are so glad to have you with us. And now, for this interview, I'm going to hand it over to my dad and colleague, John Robbins.
Well, thank you, Ocean, and thank you, Sarai, for being with us.
Thank you so much, John. It's a great pleasure and honor to be with you.
Well, we're really delighted that you accepted our invitation, and you are now an increasingly prominent whole foods plant-based physician. And one of the most remarkable things, Ocean alluded to this a moment ago, is that your own health journey has played such a huge role in who you've become. Not only did it transform your life, but it also transformed your career. And I know you've told your story often, and it's told beautifully in the documentary Code Blue, but I really do think our listeners would benefit greatly from hearing it. So, Sarai, would you mind telling us briefly about your health journey?
Sure. Well, it begins on October 11th, 1995. On that particular day, I was a third-year medical resident. I had just turned 28 years old the week before, and life was good. And I was on call on that day, and it was a very stressful, busy day at the hospital. I mean, my pager wouldn't stop ringing. And it wasn't until the mid-morning hour that I finally found that opportunity to take a brief nap. And I remember, John, making my way to the on-call room and feeling so deeply fatigued, something I had never experienced before. And the minute my head hit that pillow, lights out. Shortly thereafter, as you might imagine, in the midst of that very busy call, I was paged yet again to address another urgent patient matter. But this time, when I tried to get up out of that sleeping position, an extraordinary thing happened. I couldn't feel my legs. I remember reaching down to touch them, and they felt as if they were someone else's. And when I tried to get up to get help, when I stepped down, it felt as if I was stepping down on a bed of hot coals. I panicked. And next thing I remembered, I was in the emergency room undergoing an MRI of my brain and spinal cord. And those studies confirmed a diagnosis of multiple sclerosis with multiple lesions in both my brain and spinal cord. And so just like that, everything changed. I was no longer that young, healthy, vibrant woman that had walked through the hospital doors earlier that morning. I was now a chronic illness patient, newly diagnosed MS patient, admitted to the hospital. And that changed everything. It was the beginning of this dependency on a series of medications. I found myself dependent on nearly a dozen drugs within 8 years of that diagnosis, and dependent on a crutch or cane. And to be frank, I began to lose hope as this disease really began to take control of my life with these recurrent exacerbations that led to yet one medication after another to manage the symptomatology.
That sounds like a very painful and frightening ordeal you went through. But I also know it kind of has a happy ending. What happened next?
Well, in 2003, remarkably, by chance, I came across, and I always refer to this moment in my life as my aha moment, because by chance I came across an article in a throwaway medical journal that simply discussed a connection between diet and multiple sclerosis, and I was struck by this. How could this be? How could diet in any way affect both risk and outcomes in multiple sclerosis? And as I learned and read more, this one article sort of catalyzed this insatiable appetite within me to learn more and more about how diet was playing a role, not only in MS, but in multiple chronic diseases. I mean, all the chronic diseases that I was seeing in clinical practice, heart disease, diabetes, dementia, all these connections that were now becoming quite evident to me through this, by chance, coming across this article. And as I learned more and more, I became hopeful. I thought to myself, maybe this could be something that could serve me to improve my health outcomes. And I approached my physicians with all the literature that I had collected and I had very carefully, reviewed. And my physicians, who were truly extraordinary leaders in the field of multiple sclerosis and leading clinicians, said to me, Sarai, changing your diet and changing your lifestyle isn't going to change the outcome of this disease. This is a chronic neurologic disabling disorder. It's an autoimmune disorder. And the best thing you can do, and the most important thing you can do, is remain on the disease modifying therapy that you've been prescribed. And changing your diet isn't going to make a difference. So, leaving that visit, I felt quite deflated because whatever hope I had conjured up had been swiftly washed away by my physician. But as I thought more and more about what he had discussed with me that day, and one of the points that he made, which I think is relevant, he said to me, if you want to blame anything for your MS, is you can blame your genes because that's why you have MS. Those parting words really sort of stuck in my head. I started to think more about genetics, and it brought me back to an experience I had as an undergrad at Rutgers University where I took a genetics course. And I remember the professor on one afternoon talking about monozygotic twins. And I wondered if, in fact, my physician were right. Had anyone looked at this question? If twin A has MS, what is the likelihood that twin B would have MS? If he were right, then we would expect that the concordance rate would be close to 100%. And again, turning to the literature, trying to find answers, I found that, in fact, it wasn't 100%. It wasn't even 50%. It was more like 15 to 30%. And that brought back some of that hope I had lost, because it told me that it wasn't just my genes, that there were other variables that were clearly playing a role in the evolution and pathogenesis of this disease. And that's what led me, again, to just continue to search in the literature for answers. And I came across the science of epigenetics, which discusses the importance of our behaviors, of our environment, what we choose and how it affects gene expression. And the science of epigenetics tells us that the variables that are most important in regards to turning genes on and off are things like diet and exercise, physical activity, stress management, sleep, all the things that we talk about in the field of lifestyle medicine.
Well, there's now tremendously compelling evidence attesting to what you were finding, that the power of lifestyle medicine can really alter gene expression and influence our health in so many important ways. But the medical establishment has been slow to fully grasp the significance of what's been learned. Sarai, I'm sure that at first you tried to get the support you needed from your doctors, but did a point come where you realized that they could only be of limited help?
In 2003, I decided that I wasn't going to get the support that I so deeply wanted to receive from my physician who regrettably was only capable of prescribing one medication after another to address my symptoms and couldn't recognize the value of lifestyle, I decided to go about this on my own. And I responsibly tapered off of every one of those medicines. And I optimized every aspect of my lifestyle. I had to learn how to sleep properly. For years, I had been prescribed Ambien, a hypnotic, to sleep. I was incapable of sleeping on my own. And I learned how to introduce a healthy sleep environment in my home. And that took months, but once I got there, it was freeing. I felt I was recovering from that chronic fatigue that I lived with from multiple sclerosis, and I suddenly found myself with energy and interested in even potentially beginning to exercise. Back in the 1990s, we were told by MS experts that exercise could potentially worsen disease outcomes in MS. It was falsely believed back then to exacerbate the disease. And the most recent literature that I was reviewing, clearly exercise was important in MS management. So I began to make all of these changes. My diet, I adopted a whole food plant-based diet. So animal sources were removed from my diet, processed foods, Diet Coke, all the junk that I had been consuming at some point in my life. Of course, it didn't happen in a week or in a month, but it happened over time. Over the following months and years, I started to feel better, and again was able to come off of all of those medicines. So much so that I even started to run in 2004. And believe it or not, having come from one point in my life dependent on a cane, in 2010, I was able to cross the finish line at a marathon. So that was an extraordinary moment for me, not just because I ran a marathon, but just because it validated all I had done. And it proved to myself that the power that lies in our lifestyle choices. And I knew it wasn't just powerful for me, I knew it was powerful for my patients.
When you talk about running a marathon in 2010, 15 years after your original diagnosis, that must have seemed unthinkable back when you needed a crutch to cross a parking lot. But I really want you to know, Sarah, I can relate personally because I had polio as a child and was in a wheelchair and was told that I'd have to accept that. I just had to learn to live with it. But I came to eventually change my diet and my lifestyle dramatically, much as you did. And years later, I became a marathon runner and a triathlete. So
Isn't that wonderful? Yeah.
it is wonderful, isn't it, to find that the doctors who pronounced such grim prognoses were actually mistaken?
Yes.
They didn't know as much as they thought they knew that there's this whole world of lifestyle medicine that is really potent and really can make extraordinary differences in the lives of people and in reversing illnesses that the drugs can't.
Absolutely. And it's not just me and it's not just you, it's all of us. We all have access to this. And that's why, this is so important, is relaying this message, this all-powerful message to all peoples across the globe, because we all have access to it. We just need the education and the opportunity to know it's available to us.
When you were educating yourself about the power of nutrition to perhaps deal with MS, and you had the hope that it might be fruitful for you, did you come across the work of Roy Swank?
Yes, absolutely. And actually, I wish you could see, I have his article framed in my office because it was so instrumental. In 1952, he published an article in the New England Journal of Medicine. So, 66 years ago, 67 years ago, in which he wrote about the incidence of MS in Norway. And in this article, he describes that although Norway overall, by the way, has one of the highest rates of MS in the world, he notes that the highest rates are concentrated in the inner farming dairy communities where they're consuming what he refers to a lot of butter fat or saturated fat. And he compares this to those that are living on the coast where they're consuming primarily vegetation and fish. And he notes that rates are much higher, and hypothesized back then that saturated fat was somehow playing a role in the increased risk of multiple sclerosis and worsening outcomes of MS. And it's interesting because he writes about this in format of a hypothesis in 1952, but he goes on to actually treat patients throughout the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s with a low-fat plant-based diet. And he publishes data on 140 plus patients in 1970 in the Archives of Neurology. But he doesn't stop there, John. He follows that same cohort an additional 14 years for a total of 34 years. Can you imagine following any patient for 34 years? He followed 140 plus patients. And he concluded, after all of these years, 34 years following 140 patients, that those that adhered to his diet had significantly less disability and mortality, and those that completed his diet throughout that time, 95% remained disability free.
That's astounding.
Extraordinary.
That's just astounding.
Astounding.
Yes.
I remember reading that conclusion and just feeling exhilarated. Wow. And you know what was amazing to me again, as I read all of this, and again, this is the New England Journal of Medicine. This is the most reputable journal available to us in the field of medicine. This is not some throwaway medical journal. Why was it that I hadn't learned this in medical school? Why was it that my doctors, who were experts in the field of multiple sclerosis and neurology, could not speak to me about this evidence that had been published by Dr. Swank? Why had this somehow not made it to my education or to even my experience when I seek care from these experts?
I've read Dr. Swank's work, and one of the things that stands out for me is that even at the 50-year mark, he did a retrospective at the 50-year point, and again, 87% of the people who had stayed on his diet had not experienced any progression of the disease in 50 years. And that's just so remarkable. And he also noted in that report that these folks were unusually active and youthful looking. They had very smooth facial skin without wrinkles, and these are elderly people. They were also remarkably friendly, he said, and often laughed with a lot of joy, and they showed a lot of other signs of youthful behavior. They just were younger people despite their age. And then he concluded that in all probability, MS is caused largely or significantly contributed to by consumption of saturated animal fat. And Sarai, I spoke recently with a leading neurologist about Swank's work. And he said that although it is not very widely known in the neurological community, and we can talk about why that is the case, he said that still today, Dr. Swank's treatment protocol is the most effective treatment for MS ever reported in the peer-reviewed medical literature. And I just found it staggering that work that Dr. Swank did, very prestigious guy, you know, I mean, he
Absolutely.
he was, at the time when he first started, he was the head of neurology at what is now Oregon Health and Science University. And he's publishing in this in the most prestigious and peer-reviewed medical journals along the way. And yet still, it's not somehow picked up among neurologists that treat patients with MS. And I find that just disappointing, a little enraging, alarming, disturbing. I don't know quite the right word to summarize it, but something that should change.
I agree. All those terms that you just utilized, I would agree with. Alarming, disappointing, regrettable. It needs to change. And I think, I mean, that's really one of my life's passions, is to find my peers and communicate this message, allow them to get curious about this work. I mean, it's not just me who's gained great benefit. I'm speaking in the MS realm. And so many of my patients and just people who write me and have had similar stories, we need to really look at this because it saves lives. It changes the character of this disease to one that, I mean, I never say, by the way, John, that I'm cured of the disease. I manage it actively every day. I assure you that if I decided tomorrow to wake up and just give up on everything that I'm doing, I mean, I wake up every morning, I practice meditation, I get up, I run 3 miles, I eat the way I do every single day. I don't do this on occasion. This is my lifestyle. These are the behaviors that I've adopted and realize how important they are every day.
They are. And I want to ask you, first, what do you eat? And is there a special diet for MS, or is the best diet for MS also essentially the same diet you would, say, prescribe to a patient to prevent and maybe even reverse diabetes or heart disease?
Great question. And I would say to you that the diet that is best for MS is the same diet that is best for diabetes, for heart disease, or the prevention of breast cancer, colon cancer, Alzheimer's disease. It's all the same diet. It's a diet that is primarily plant-based, a whole food plant-based diet. And that is overwhelmingly what the evidence in the literature points to. There isn't a specific diet for one disease. And that's one of the things that sort of drives me crazy, where we say, here's an Alzheimer's disease diet and here's a diabetes diet. Let's not complicate this. It's really quite simple. What we need to do as Americans is sort of crowd the animal out of our plate and bring in more and more fiber-rich plant-based foods that are colorful, rich in antioxidants, phytonutrients, flavonoids, carotenoids. These are all these anti-inflammatory molecules that are assuring that we age gracefully and improve our quality of life. That is my hope for all of us, John. We've been talking a bit about my personal story, and it is, of course, in large part why I'm so passionate about the work that I do today, but also my professional experience of practicing medicine in New York for nearly 20 years and seeing so much chronic disease that I know is largely preventable. A routine consult that I would see at the VA as the chief of infectious diseases would be an infected diabetic foot ulcer with bone involvement. That's what we call osteomyelitis. Those infections are very difficult to treat in anyone, but especially in diabetics, because diabetics have poor immune systems, they're poor wound healers, they have poor vasculature, so getting the antibiotic to the site is compromised. So even when we put these patients on the right antibiotics and we aggressively debride these infected ulcers, often they end up amputated. And so now you have a poorly controlled diabetic status post-amputation. That patient's not going to sign up for a 5K. It's going to become more sedentary, gain additional weight, blood pressure further out of control, lipids further out of control. And that patient, we're setting him up for that catastrophic event, a heart attack or stroke. And then I would see that same patient a few years down the line, but this time in an acute setting after that heart attack or stroke. And this is what we see every day in every hospital across our country, and no one bats an eye because it's just considered routine. Yeah, diabetics, yeah, they develop strokes, they develop heart attacks. But the scientific literature tells us that 93% of diabetes is preventable. We have that data today. We have the information to prevent 93% of diabetes. That's from the Potsdam study that clearly showed when we eat a diet rich in fruits, vegetables, whole grains, when we move every day, maintain a healthy weight, and not smoke, if we do those 4 things, we can prevent 93% of diabetes, overall 80% of chronic diseases, including heart attacks, which are the #1 cause of death in our country. We have this extraordinary, powerful data at our fingertips, and we should be, as physicians in this country, screaming from mountaintops, relaying this all-powerful information to our communities, and somehow we are not doing that, and it needs to change.
It does. And I find it very empowering that when we address things that are often in our own control, things like getting optimal nutrition, getting enough sleep, getting enough exercise, managing our stress, and not smoking or drinking excess alcohol. I mean, these are relatively simple things that most of us can do.
Absolutely.
We can actually prevent, as you said, 93% of the cases of diabetes and about 80% of all chronic disease.
Absolutely.
And you had a disease, you still have, in some sense, the disease MS, which has a genetic component.
For sure.
And a lot of people think that genes are determinant. But for those of our listeners who don't fully get this, or maybe think, well, my parents had a heart attack, so I'm going to, and it's that the fate is cast, and it doesn't matter what I eat or what I do, what would you say to patients who have that attitude?
I can tell you that I hear that often, several times a week from patients. They say to me, my father has diabetes, his father had diabetes, so it's inevitable that I would develop diabetes. It's in the genes. Or, I have hypercholesterolemia, my father had hypercholesterolemia. So again, inevitable. And it's not. The reason you all have the same issues is because you're all doing the same thing in large part. Yes, genes play a role, but again, it's a minor role. You're all eating the same foods. You're all engaging in the same type of physical activity. You're sedentary. We tend to behave as our family members do. So once we break out of that, once we change, and you can change that for your future family members, just because your father and grandfather had diabetes, you can be that first break it in your family that takes on a new path. You can redefine your health outcomes by making and optimizing your decisions. And again, it's just as simple as that. Am I going to eat a diet that is enriched in fiber and phytonutrients and antioxidants, one that's enriched in plant-based foods? Am I going to get up every day and get moving? It's really important. And you don't have to do anything extraordinary. You don't have to invest in a gym membership. Just get up and move. Go out and walk. Just start day one, 5 minutes. But know that every day you're going to invest 5 minutes, and then you're going to roll that into 10 minutes. And over time, and you will see that as you implement these changes in your life, the benefits are extraordinary on so many levels. It's not just your blood pressure is going to improve and your cholesterol is going to improve, but your mood is going to improve. Your risk of so many chronic diseases will diminish remarkably. One of the issues that is always important for me to speak to is breast cancer. It's an extraordinary problem in our country. As women, we've come a long way. We've brought a lot of attention to breast cancer. We have in October Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and we wear pink and the pink ribbons, and even football players. I know there's a lot of, and we raise a lot of money. There's the Susan G. Komen and Avon walks. But you know what's missing during that whole month where we're bringing attention to breast cancer? We don't talk about the importance of lifestyle. We know that, for example, obesity and excess alcohol and smoking and poor diet and sedentary behavior contribute significantly to increased risk of breast cancer. And this is an important message, but we don't talk about that during the time of breast cancer awareness. We talk about early detection with mammography. And of course, all of that is important, but risk begins early in life. So we want to get into the elementary schools and high schools and speak to our young girls and young ladies about the importance of their choices very early on in life, because what they do early on in life sets them up for their risk later when in their 40s and 50s and postmenopausal risk as well.
A lot of people today think they're eating a healthy diet when they eat a lot of protein. That's how they kind of assess how healthy their diet is how much protein is in it. What do you say to your patients who subscribe to that belief?
Well, the key is education. I show them the evidence because it's very important that patients understand that this isn't my opinion. This isn't something I'm just sort of pulling out of the air. We show them the evidence. We show them the literature so that they understand it. We've been told for years that more protein equates to better health outcomes, and helping them to understand that in large part, Americans are not protein deficient. What we are deficient is in fiber, and helping them to understand that fiber is only coming from plant-based foods. We talk about how much protein does the average American need? Probably 0.6 to 0.8 grams per kilogram. That's about 50 grams per day. And we're consuming twice that amount. And when we consume too much protein, that's detrimental to our overall health. So we educate patients, empower them, and help them to understand that the one nutrient that they need to really focus on is really fiber, because fiber is the key. Most of us are consuming about 15 grams of fiber per day, and we probably need twice that amount or even more, ideally, because fiber is so important. It protects our heart, it keeps our gut moving, protects us from cancer. There's so many important reasons why fiber is the key to a healthy diet.
Well, fiber is found in all whole plant foods. And ironically, there is no fiber in any animal product, no fiber in meat, or no fiber in butter or cheese or ice cream, no fiber in eggs. And yet a lot of people don't know that. We were talking about protein a moment ago, and does your read of the medical literature tell you that not only are we probably eating too much protein, but in specific, we're eating too much animal protein, that that if we substitute plant proteins for animal proteins, just by that very fact, we improve our health in many ways?
Absolutely. There's an article published just last year that clearly stated if we just switch out 3% of animal protein with plant protein, there's extraordinary benefit from that. And I think the other thing that's important, again, misconceptions, because there's so many in the field of nutrition, is that individuals need to know and understand that plants have ample protein. There are ample sources of protein in beans and grains and vegetables. And that if you eat 3 meals every day and they're fully plant-based, that you're going to get ample protein. I don't want patients to get so scientific, because food should be something that we enjoy, and it shouldn't be so calculating, counting points and calories. It just gets so complicated. Just eat what you love and eat primarily plants. And I know that's very difficult for many Americans to accept. And I know we're not going to change this overnight. I mean, think about what the standard American diet looks like, right? 25% of our calories are coming from animal sources of food. And then it's like 63% coming from processed food that just is nutrient deficient. And then only 12% of our calories, 12% of our calories are coming from plant-based foods. But if you drill down and you look at the specifics of that, only 6% is coming from whole plant-based foods, which is what we need most of.
And the consequences to people's health of eating what has become known as the standard American diet are dire. They're really dire. About 70% of Americans now are either overweight or obese. If your weight is where it should be, you're in the distinct minority. 25 years ago, diabetes was rare. Maybe only 2% of the population had the disease. But now, it's 10% of us. And the CDC is predicting that in 30 years, more than 30% of all Americans will have diabetes. And all this illness and all this suffering is directly related to our poor dietary choices and to our sedentary lifestyles. Sarai, you said that only a small percent of the average American's diet is coming from whole plant-based foods. These are the fruits and vegetables and the seeds and nuts and beans and other legumes and the whole grains that we really should be basing our diet on. So let me ask you, what percentage of your diet comes from whole plant foods?
Oh, 100%.
100%.
I'm fully whole food plant-based, and I have been, and it didn't happen for me overnight. At first, it was difficult. But I would say over the past decade, I've been fully whole food plant-based, a little more than a decade. I would say since 2005. So it's been 13 years, I guess, since 2005, yeah.
I understand that many of your patients in your medical practice now are doctors.
Yes.
I find that to be very encouraging in a way, and also quite an endorsement, validation of the kind of lifestyle medicine that you practice. How did that come to be that there are so many physicians as your patients?
So this was something I could have never predicted. So in 2012, this was sort of a decision that I made that many people questioned, but I felt I had to do it. It was one of those things that I felt if I don't do this, I'm going to regret this on my deathbed. I decided to leave my job in the field of infectious diseases and start this lifestyle medicine practice because, again, I felt so passionate about this. It was frightening because I had no patients when I started and no stream of referral because my colleagues really were concerned that I had, that this was an irresponsible decision on my part. But, patients started to call and schedule appointments and we started to do the work. And my initial visit with the patient was 2 hours. I knew in order for me to garner the trust that I know I needed, it would have to take time. I would have to spend time with that patient, really get to know them and help educate them by showing them the literature and helping them understand the power that lies in lifestyle. And I started the work and patients started to shed pounds and shed prescriptions. And it was amazing. It was just one story after another. And then they would go back to see their doctor, their endocrinologist, that, a diabetic that I was seeing that was overweight and had been diabetic for 15 years, dependent on 3 medicines and had lost the weight, came off the medicine, went back to see their endocrinologist for their yearly evaluation. And the endocrinologist was shocked. What did you do? I went to see Dr. Stancic. She's this lifestyle medicine doctor, and she's taught me how to eat properly. And then they would call me, the doctors would. and they would say, "What are you up to?" And I would have a conversation with them and send them a literature. Give me your email address so I can send you some of the papers that clearly support what I'm doing. And then they would call me, John, a week later or so and say, "You know what? I want to come see you." And again, I would think it would be as a, come have a cup of tea and we'll talk like on a professional level. But it was like, "No, I want to come see you as a patient because I'm overweight. I'm depressed. I'm, hypertensive. I have diabetes." And that's how it started. And then all of a sudden, one physician would refer me to their colleague physician who was having a problem. And before I knew it, I had several, I think at this point I have about close to 40 patients in my practice that happen to be doctors. And it's really extraordinary for me because when I'm able to help a patient, of course, that's very important. But when I'm able to help a patient who's also a doctor, I know that that also changes the way he or she is going to practice medicine moving forward. And that's been an amazing thing for me to witness, to see them, practicing differently simply because of our experience.
That fascinates me, the ripple effects that your patients who are physicians themselves, in turn, introducing their patients perhaps to a whole foods, plant strong lifestyle and to the benefits across the board to their health, whatever their illness is. It is very likely that the same lifestyle measures that would help one disease will help another. And I find that to be rather stunning too, because medicine tends to specialize. And we tend to look at diseases as discrete entities with their own pathology, their own medications, their own pharmaceutical treatments, and their own prognoses. And we don't think very often about the whole person, the whole system that is the body, and the fact that good nutrition is so powerful. I sometimes think that the doctor who doesn't know about the healing powers of excellent nutrition is like a fireman who doesn't know about water.
That's a great, yeah, you're right. That's the problem. And physicians don't know about this by no fault of their own. They're not taught it. That's the absurd truth. That's our dirty little secret that somehow the medical education model as it stands today completely ignores this. And the most important therapeutic intervention available to us, the bedrock on which all medical education should be built on, is somehow completely missing. And that's, to me, absurd, and it needs to be corrected. Medical education is built on the model of pathogenesis. So in medical school, we learn everything there is to know about the disease process. We become experts. I call it disease detectives. We collect clues, we do a history, physical, we draw blood, we'll do imaging studies, all to get at that differential diagnosis and ultimately make the diagnosis. And once we make the diagnosis, our therapeutic intervention consists of either a pharmaceutical agent or a surgical intervention, or sometimes both. That's what we're taught. That's what we learn. That's our experience throughout all of our medical education. The problem is that we're missing the other half, the mirror image of pathogenesis, which is salutogenesis, the process by which we maintain health and well-being. And we don't learn that in medical school, and that's what's missing. And those would be modules in nutrition and exercise and sleep, all the things we talk about, again, in the field of lifestyle medicine. That should be the bedrock. That should be day one when you walk into medical school, the first lesson that you receive, and that gets built upon throughout the 4 years.
Yes, it should be. And I look forward to the day that every physician is taught and fully grasps the tremendous power of excellent nutrition and other lifestyle measures to prevent, arrest, and reverse so many diseases. We aren't there yet, but there are some hopeful signs. Sarai, in your film Code Blue, you feature the University of South Carolina in Greenville. Why did you want your viewers to see what's happening there?
I wanted to travel to South Carolina to illustrate, to show this example, this extraordinary example where it can be done, where these young men and women who are studying to be physicians are learning the pathogenesis model. Of course, that's important. We need to understand the mechanisms of disease. We need to understand pharmaceuticals, of course, are an important part of clinical medicine and surgical interventions, obviously. But they're also learning the importance of salutogenesis. So we're training doctors in Greenville that understand nutrition and its intimate relationship with wellness and how a poor diet plays a significant role in the evolution of disease. So they're getting this education now. And that's what I hope to see across the country. All 100, and I think we're up to 179 medical schools. I want all medical schools to speak to the power of lifestyle, and it must be integrated into the curriculum in order for us to, and imagine that, John, if we were able to train doctors who could all speak to this ubiquitously across the country and even across the world. Might we turn the tide of this chronic disease epidemic so effectively if we did this? I believe personally that we could, but we all have to be on the same page. I can tell you that when I spend 2 hours with a patient talking to them about the importance of diet and lifestyle, and then they walk out of my office and go see their cardiologist, and the cardiologist undoes it all by saying, this is crazy, just take your statin and eat what you want, then it just undid everything that I just spoke to this patient about. And that's what happens in today's world, in that we have plenty of physicians out there who aren't aware, so are incapable of speaking to this.
Well, I think some of that difficulty, we are walking an uphill path here, is that there are people profiting enormously from selling food products that cause illness, and there are other people profiting massively from treating those illnesses. So in most hospitals, for example, the cafeterias sell food that we know causes heart disease and cancer, and then on another floor, they sell treatments for these illnesses.
John, in our medical school, and I actually started a petition last year. I've been writing editorials about this and just trying to bring attention to it. In our medical school in Newark, New Jersey, inside the cafeteria, which feeds both our medical school and our tertiary care center, our hospital, inside of this cafeteria, there's a Burger King. And it's been there for 20 years, I think since 1995. And if you go there at lunchtime, you'll see white coats online purchasing this food. And to me, that is unacceptable. It's as if, this food is what cigarettes were for us, 20, 30 years ago. It's, again, unacceptable that we're selling fast food that clearly is promoting chronic diseases within our own hospital setting, not across the street, but within the hospital, which today in 2019 is still going on. And it just leaves me, every time I see it, it just is really very, very painful, because, our patients are suffering, our students are suffering. And this is the example that we're setting for a community, by the way, in Newark that is struggling with chronic disease. And it just seems to me that we need to act, and we need to act now.
Yes, this is definitely something that needs to be changed. And your work is helping to change that. Here at Food Revolution Network, we're hoping to help to change that. Your vision and your mission haven't reached their limits with your private practice. You're also now an executive producer of the new documentary Code Blue. I have been privileged to see it. It's magnificent. I encourage all of our listeners to see it when they can, Code Blue. Sarai, what is, from your point of view, the film trying to achieve? What do you hope your viewers will come away with?
My hope is that the community at large will be empowered and understand that their choices are extraordinarily powerful. And by making these choices, we can change the course of our health outcomes, that we can all age gracefully. We don't have to end our lives with that bookend of 6 years in a nursing home, demented and in a diaper. That we can all do this. That my hope for everyone in our community, our global community, is that, at age 97, we spend a beautiful day with our family and loved ones, and then we go home, we go to bed, and we don't wake up. That's the beautiful ending that I want for all of us, that we don't end up in an ICU followed by, a nursing home stay. That I don't want that for anyone. And I believe that if we understand the power of our choices, that we can all have this beautiful dream and our lives can end in a dignified way and not in the typical storyline that we see today in our country. It is very painful. And also for me as a physician, it's always remarkable to me as a physician who's also a patient that I was not taught the most important intervention that I could have been offered was none of my physicians, who again were the best and most highly skilled in the field of multiple sclerosis, they were incapable of giving me the one bit of advice that I needed. And again, that is because of the lack of education in medical school, this missing piece. So for me, it's also to urge interest in bringing change to the antiquated medical education model. I want to stir, a discussion amongst those who create curricula in medical schools. Even the way we train doctors, John, it's inhumane. We don't sleep. We're highly stressed. We eat poorly. Of course, all of those, as a medical resident and medical student, I was drinking and eating out of machines, and I was working 36-hour shifts. I can tell you my husband, who's also a physician, he's an obstetrician, when he was an intern, after a near 40-hour shift, drove home on an early summer morning and drove his car into, thankfully, it was a parked car, but he totaled his car. He fell asleep behind the wheel. These kinds of things. We have the highest rates of suicide in any profession. Last year at NYU, 25 miles from my home, at that institution, there were 2 suicides in one weekend, a medical student and a medical resident. Substance abuse issues are a problem in the field of medicine. So we need to look at how we're training physicians, not only to assure that we're able to deliver this all-important intervention to our patients, but also, my goodness, I want physicians to take care of themselves. We need to be the example for our patients. And that's important to me. I'm not just asking patients to do this for themselves. I want them to see me doing this in my community. They'll see me riding my bike into my office. They'll see me at the local supermarket. They see what's in my shopping cart. We'll do walk with a doc at the park. We'll ask our patients or community to join us at the park, and we walk together, and we share stories, and we create community. These are all very important, and these are joyful and therapeutic interventions that should be available to all communities across our country and across the globe. And they're so important. The answer to this chronic disease epidemic is so simple, and it's at our fingertips. We just need to deliver the message. And I hope that Code Blue in some way plays a part or role in delivering that message.
Well, I think it will, having seen it. I thought it was really well done and will reach a lot of minds and hearts and lives. And I'm glad for that. And I appreciate you for all that you've done to make that happen. Your story, your personal journey is amazing. And out of that has grown a commitment to helping others that's equally, to my eyes, extraordinary. And I would imagine that many of our listeners would love to have you as their physician. And I know they've gotten a lot out of listening to you today. And the more people who heed your message and the more people who hear it, the healthier our world will be. And I want to thank you, Sarai, for your courage in sharing your experience so openly, and for your wisdom and your caring, which are remarkable. And I want to thank you also, of course, for being with us today.
Thank you so much, John. It was a great pleasure.
We've been talking with Dr. Sarai Stancic, founder of Stancic Health and Wellness, Chief Medical Officer for WellStart Health, and producer of the breakthrough film Code Blue, Redefining the Practice of Medicine. Sarai, in a world in which most doctors treat food like an afterthought, you are leading the way to a better path that could change hundreds of millions of lives. We are so grateful for your moving story, for your extraordinary work, and for your partnership in the food revolution.
Thank you so much, Ocean. It was a great pleasure speaking to both you and John.
Thank you so much to Dr. Sarai Stancic and to my dad for that fascinating conversation. To express your opinions on what you're hearing and to find out what others are saying, post and engage in the comments section on the broadcast page. Make sure to refresh the comments so you can see the most recent ones that have been shared. Susan Ahmed said, after listening to this summit 3 years ago, I started exploring the whole food plant-based diet, which helped me change my lifestyle after stopping smoking 7 years ago. I don't drink alcohol, and I can say that my bipolar disorder, from which I have suffered since the age of 25, I'm now 55, is subsiding and healing with these lifestyle changes. I haven't heard mental illness addressed in the summit, but I'm sure that lifestyle change is critical for mental health as well as physical health. Thank you for all your help. Well, Susan, thank you for sharing this. And yes, absolutely, what goes on in your brain has a lot to do with your mental health and well-being, and it has a lot to do also with what you eat and how you live. And there are abundant studies showing that a whole foods plant-powered diet, as well as exercise and certain other positive lifestyle benefits like emotional connection and stress reduction, don't just help your heart, they don't just help fight cancer, they don't just help fight Alzheimer's, they also help you be mentally healthy. They help fight depression and a whole host of different ailments. So it's true. It's interesting, you know, if you drive your car into a brick wall, your death certificate might say impalement by brick wall. But ultimately, we all know it was driving that caused it. And similarly, the modern lifestyle and diet is causing a whole host of problems. And in some ways, many of these problems are symptoms, not causes of death or causes of disability. So anyways, all that to say, congratulations to you on making these changes and getting some results. And yes, you're absolutely right. There is a connection, and we bless you on your healing path. We heard from Karen Klein, who said, so thrilled and thankful to hear Dr. Stancic speak. I was diagnosed with MS 12 years ago. My disease was very aggressive the first few years, and I was using a walker within a year of diagnosis. I've been slowly switching to a whole food plant-based diet and started exercising. My balance is much better, and I have progressed from using a walker to using a cane. I'd love to hear more about managing my disease through diet and lifestyle changes. Well, wow, Karen, thank you for sharing that. And you're experiencing something, and Dr. Stancic has experienced radical transformation here that a lot of supposed experts say is impossible. Most folks say MS is a one-way street. But blessings on you as you apply these changes. What we are seeing is that all kinds of miracles, and I'm putting miracles frankly in quotes, become possible and in some cases even predictable when we start nourishing our body with the right fuel and living the principles we're hearing about here. So blessings to you. We heard from Kirtana Gopal, who said, how do you get the daily recommended protein intake from a plant-based diet? Now, I know that we just were discussing protein in this last interview, but let me give you a little more data here, Kirtana. In the United States, the official recommended allowance of protein is 0.36 grams of protein for every pound of healthy body weight. This means that if you weighed 150 pounds, you'd need about 54 grams of protein per day to meet that target. If you're an athlete or you're trying to build muscle, or if you're pregnant or lactating, or if you're under significant emotional stress, or if you're a senior, then your needs might go up to perhaps 0.45 grams of protein a day, which for a 150-pound person would be 67.5 grams daily, or the Mayo Clinic recommends for seniors getting as much as 0.52 grams of protein per pound of body weight over age 65, which would be 78 grams of protein per day at 150 pounds. Not to get too technical here, but I'm just trying to give you some of the numbers. And 80% of U.S. consumers say they want more protein in their diet. But here's the fact. Protein deficiency in the industrialized world is almost non-existent. Most American adults eat way more than the recommended amount. We average 100 grams of protein per day. Most Europeans get way more than they need as well. If you eat 2,400 calories in a day and 15% of your calories come from protein, you're getting 90 grams of protein per day. Dr. Walter Longo led a study at the University of Southern California. He tracked 6,381 adults over age 50 for 20 years. And in the study, they found that people with a high protein diet, over 20% of calories from protein, were 74% more likely to die of any cause during the 20-year study period than their low protein counterparts who had less than 10% of calories from protein. The increase in cancer risk that came with the high protein diet was on par, Dr. Longo said, with smoking 20 cigarettes per day. And we have other studies showing us that excess protein consumption can lead to increased risk of not just cancer, but osteoporosis, renal disease, liver disorders, and coronary artery disease. So it may be that a lot of us are trying so hard to get enough protein, and many of us may be getting too much. This is one of the reasons, potentially, that a whole foods plant-based diet seems to lead to so many positive health outcomes, because it is actually a bit lower in protein, and that may be a very good thing. Now, if you are looking for the best sources of protein in the plant kingdom, you might be looking at tempeh, lentils, chickpeas and hummus, edamame and tofu, beans, at quinoa, nuts and seeds, even oatmeal or broccoli. But for most of us, getting enough protein really isn't a big concern here. We heard from Melissa Feltau, who said, "I'm so grateful for this transformational summit. It's my second one. Last year during the summit, I tried the great recipes." Scroll down and you'll find some on the broadcast page, and accidentally became a vegan. I felt great, but at Christmas I slipped and started eating meat and cheese, and oh boy, last week I got my latest 6.8 AIC and nasty cholesterol levels. I started back to eating vegan and feel so much better. This summit came at the perfect time to get me back on track and accountable to improving my health. To be sure, I will be signing into Whole Life Club today. Thank you to the Robbins family and all these physicians for your devotion to prevention and reversing disease. Well, Melissa, wonderful. You are getting re-inspired. A lot of people do experience this. They get inspired, they get passionate, and then they slip over time. And that's why we created Whole Life Club, for people just like you to be able to stay with it long term. So congratulations on jumping into that. We heard from Genevieve Desmarais, who said, "A little over 2 years ago, I began my journey with a plant-based diet. No animal products at all. I eat organic as much as possible, as I feel spending my money on organic foods is far better than spending it on medication. I can say this truthfully because I've been taking medication for hypothyroidism for 20 plus years. Since my switch to plant-based and a complete overhaul of toxicities in my life, including emotional toxicities, I'm so proud to say that I now take a quarter the dose of my thyroid meds that I took for 20 years, and I have no symptoms, and I take no other meds either. My journey to health quickly turned into a spiritual journey. I thank the Food Revolution for being part of this journey." Well, Genevieve, thank you for sharing that. And I am so happy, and we're celebrating with you the results you're experiencing and the steps you're taking. And it's fascinating when you say that your journey to health turned into a spiritual journey. I think that's so interesting because for a lot of us, health isn't really the goal all by itself. It's actually a means to an even greater end. Vitality, thriving, aliveness, joy, and even spiritual meaning and purpose and satisfaction. And that often opens up when you aren't dealing with chronic pain or suffering. When your body has the nutrients it needs, then sometimes you find your life not only longer, but fuller, more vibrant, more beautiful. And that's what I want for you. We heard from Sarah Hones, who said, "Ripple effect, oh yes, it does happen. I started my whole food plant-based journey in December after losing my gallbladder. Within weeks, I was feeling better than I had in decades. My older sister noticed the change in attitude and was convinced this was the right path based solely on how happy I sounded. She jumped in with both feet and proceeded to tell our younger sister, who's a professional nutritionist. And she eventually shouted, 'What a revelation. It all makes sense,' and joined right in. We now anticipate all growing old together and enjoying every minute of the journey." Well, Sarah, thank you for sharing this with your family. And we want to help you to share it and own it even more deeply. So we're going to gift you with an empowerment package. So you will own the MP3s and the transcripts of the entire summit for life. Congratulations. I know you and your sisters will put it to good use in your long, vibrant, healthy lives together. Our team will follow up with you. Diane Prokopis said, Ocean, I love the energy and knowledge you bring to your life's work. And John, it is so heartening to hear you interviewing the speakers. You have so much wisdom to share. I read Diet for a New America cover to cover when it first came out. Thank you again for your commitment to heal. Thank you, Diane. Yes, indeed. And I have to say, we're focusing a lot on the speakers here in the summit who are incredible and brilliant. And I am so proud of my dad and the legacy and the life he has lived and the books he's written. And quite frankly, the treat it is to hear him every day in this summit with such wise, insightful comments and brilliant questions. It's wonderful. So I join you in celebrating. Brenda Crump said, I have shared the summit link with so many people. This is really good info and should be shared everywhere and with everyone. Well, Brenda, that is wonderful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And to all of our participants right here and right now, you can spread the word. If you feel a fire lit inside you, if you feel curious, growing, that this is important, that this is knowledge worth spreading, then please, please, please tell 10 people, tell 20 people, tell 30 people. The Food Revolution Summit is here. Give them the link. Invite them to join in, invite them to participate with you, or get the empowerment package and share it with them so they can have access to this wisdom as well. Because this is just too precious and too important not to share with everyone we love. We heard from Donna Starring Cool, who said, with the empowerment package, is it possible to download the discussions to a flash drive or to a CD for listening on the go? I don't have access all the time to Wi-Fi or internet connection. Yes, Donna, good news for you. With the empowerment package, you can download everything to a local computer. You can also download it to, to your iTunes or whatever folder, your music library, and you can totally burn it to CDs. If you just write to our team, we can send you very simple instructions. It's easy to do. And if you want CD sets of the empowerment package, you can have them in a matter of minutes. So we are nearing the end now of day 3 in the Food Revolution Summit. And I want to say again, to express your opinions and to find out what others are saying, please post and engage in the comments area on our broadcast page. Make sure to refresh the comments so you can see the latest ones. And you can also join in the conversation on our Facebook page at facebook.com/Food Revolution Network. And do come on back and join us tomorrow at 8 a.m. Pacific Time, 11 Eastern, 3 p.m. GMT for Detoxify. Protect yourself and those you love. We'll be starting off with Vani Hari on hidden toxins in your food and how you can protect yourself and your family. Then at 9 a.m. Pacific, we'll hear from attorney and Center for Food Safety founder Andrew Kimbrell. And at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 Eastern, 5 GMT, you'll hear from GMOs and glyphosate expert and Institute for Responsible Technology founder Jeffrey Smith. It's going to be an incredible day. You do not want to miss it. And in the meanwhile, you can post your comments, share in the conversation, catch the replays, check out the empowerment package so you can own it all for life, including the action checklists, as well as the transcripts and all the bonuses. And I want to invite you to enjoy some delicious, healthy food. In fact, today's recipe of the day is heartbeat hummus. It's good for your heart, and it's good for your taste buds too. We wish you a beautiful, thriving day. This is Ocean Robbins signing off from day 3 in the Food Revolution Summit. At Food Revolution Network, we're on a mission for healthy, ethical, sustainable food for everyone who eats. We believe that no matter where you come from or what you've been through, the simple truth is you are meant to thrive. The Food Revolution Summit is packed with so many insights that it can be difficult to absorb and apply all of them. That is why we created the Empowerment Package, which includes the entire summit, plus all the transcripts and loads of bonus material that you can refer back to as often as you like for life. We have a mission. We want an end to routine use of antibiotics in factory farms. We want kids to learn about healthy food in school, and we want doctors to learn about nutrition in medical school. We want to slash rates of heart disease, cancer, diabetes, and obesity, and to uplift the health of millions. When you purchase the Empowerment Package, you are supporting your health and this mission. And for each package purchased, we make a donation to Trees for the Future, enabling them to plant an organic fruit or nut tree in a low-income community. Invest in your health and the health of those you care about most, and help us change the status quo by purchasing your Empowerment Package today.